Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Mailbag episode of Sneak Attack, the bookend of Volume 1. I'm Reed, your voice in your ears right now. I'm not really DMing this, but I'm happy to be here. To my left, we have...
Do we say our names?
Yeah, just names.
Dan.
Go forth with confidence. Shoot. Kelsey.
Mike.
And Josh. I forgot my computer, so I don't have the questions in front of me.
I forgot my name.
If you want. I actually think we had this very conversation during our first Mailbag episode of like, do we say our names or...
Oh, yeah.
I think we always do when it's something not the actual podcast.
What do we do here?
It's a little abnormal.
Thank
okay.
you.
I did the same thing. So, this is officially the end of Volume 1. You've hopefully all listened to it by now. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And this is your chance to ask us any lingering questions that you may have had about Volume 1. Anything that you think you want further resolution on. Questions you just want to ask us can be about anything. Or, anything. Like, I also included glaring plot holes because I'm sure there's lots. So, we got 453 submissions.
So much beef to squash.
It's a lot of squash beef. But we're going to try and get through as many as possible. So, as to be expected, there were quite a few duplicates, so that'll help bring the number down. But this first question came in from a couple people, Aaron, Bear, and Jonathan. They all want to know, hey guys, when's the next t-shirt going to be available?
Tomorrow.
Today, actually.
Oh!
It's today.
Wow.
So we have
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, yeah. So Wednesday, the 27th. We have a t-shirt live on our website right now. Go to sneakpodcast.com. There will be a link to the sale of our shirt, like a store or a merch page, right there on the website. You can go to it. There will be a link in the description of this episode. There is a brand new design, never before seen. It's not the logo. It's something entirely new. It's like a nice little thing Mike put together as a culmination of the series. Go available. It's right now. You can press pause on this episode. We'll wait.
Right now. Go ahead.
So, now that you've unpaused the episode and you're back from ordering your shirt, congratulations, by the way. Our first actual question, which those are real questions too, but this is for all of us, for all the group. This comes to us from Jason Fry. Thank you, Jason, for the question. Can you tell us a little something about how each of you sacrificed to make this amazing podcast and story possible for your fans? I'm going to let you guys kind of take this one, and I'll chime in if need be, but I want to know how you guys feel like what you have to sacrifice in order to make these weekly episodes a reality for the last 3 years.
Yeah. I want to hear from you guys because I feel like I've talked plenty about the time I put into edits. What does it cost you guys to do Sneak Attack?
Consistency is a huge thing, especially for 3 years. So I think there is times that it was really easy, and then there's other times that you're going to a movie and you forgot that you were recording.
That happened once.
I literally went to a movie and then was like, Reed was like, where you're at? I'm like, well, I'm watching a movie with my wife at the movie theater. And he's like, we're recording. And I just go, my bad or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, I think there's some days that it's like, this is literally the last thing I want to do. You know, you had a long day at work, family, and it's like you don't get to see them that day. But thanks to my wife and kids and everybody that let me do this, and it's been awesome. It's been their sacrifice also, but I don't know. Sacrifice is like a really like heavy word. I don't think it's just like consistency. It's really tough, but it's cool.
A follow-up from Derek the Cleric. He asked, what kept each of us motivated to continue to being dedicated to the story and the show and stuff like that. So if you have any follow-up with that in mind as well. Dan?
I think just echoing what Mike said about, I don't know, when you've got family and kids, and sometimes I remember there'd be times where I'd be working late, and so I'd either come straight from work to record, or I would go home to shove something to eat in my mouth, take a shower, and then run out the door real quick.
Yep.
And when you're going out the door and your kids are like, where's Daddy going? And you have to be like, oh, going to podcast.
Going to hang out with his nerds.
See you in the morning. But yeah, just echoing what Mike said. It's probably more of a sacrifice from my family than it was for me, because they're the ones that had to be without me in those moments. But the consistency thing, I'm really proud of, that we were able to consistently put our product out there. And looking back, like, it was super, super fun. It's always going to be like a huge memory for me, for my life,
Yeah.
what we're able to accomplish. And what was the follow-up question?
Well, just like, motivation, which I think you kind of
yeah.
talked about too, just like where we built something.
Yeah. I think once we adhered to our consistency, it was like a super big deal. Like, make sure that kept going.
Yeah. All right, Josh and Kelsey, I'll ask you guys this one. This question comes in from Mike, a.k.a. Felderove, and also Paul Shirley. More or less, they say that playing one campaign for a long time is impressive. Did we ever come close to quitting or taking a break? And then Paul specifically asked, when we did hit that point of fatigue, like, what was it that kept us going? But I think Dan even kind of mentioned that a little bit. So did either of you ever come close to, like, saying, I can't be a part of this anymore for whatever reason, good or bad?
Kels?
Yeah, I almost quit multiple times.
First year more than the rest, I felt like. No? She's
second,
like, I've been on the edge.
No, the second year was the worst.
Was it really?
Yeah, like a year ago.
Mm.
Like right before we went to New York was when I wanted to quit.
Okay.
Brenna was getting a lot of negative feedback, and I understand that she's not everybody's cup of tea, but honestly, like, she's a character I created, and I'm not looking for you to insult me as a person or insult my character. And, like, some of the stuff that was said was really, really rude. Like,
yes.
Like, things that people would never say to my face.
Yeah.
And so I eventually, like, stopped checking reviews. Like, I don't look at reviews anymore. I don't look at tweets unless I mention in them. Like, I used to go to the subreddit, and I don't do that anymore.
Yeah,
and
you can't go to the subreddit
No,
anymore.
I'm
like,
probably the only person who still frequents that stuff.
Like, I don't look at the Facebook group. Like, that one was never bad, but I just, like, decided that cutting myself off completely would be best. But even after that, people would directly tweet at me and say rude things.
Yeah, that once or twice.
And, like, I'm not just saying, like, you're mean. I mean, like, vulgar, harsh, rude things.
Yeah.
And, like, I think, just to get on my soapbox, like, it's important to remember that creators are people too. And, like, when I think about the Star Wars thing that's going on right now with the girl, like, yeah, that character wasn't my favorite either, but, like, nobody asked for my opinion, and, like, she's a human being, and, like, she didn't write that character.
Right.
She was
She's
just
doing
working
a
with
job.
she was doing what she could with what she had, and, like, just because you think that she didn't make the franchise any better doesn't mean that you should attack her on social media.
Right.
So that's something that I've gotten really passionate about, and so now I'm super motivated by that. But there was a time where I was ready to, like, call it quits. And if it hadn't been for Therese on Nerdophiles with the amazing review she wrote for our podcast and specifically called me out and praised me, like, right when I needed it, I would have walked away from this podcast. Reed tried to talk me into staying. Josh had tried to talk me into staying, but I was ready to just call it quits. But Therese saved the podcast.
And meeting Therese in New
like
York,
that weekend.
like,
It's huge. Yeah.
the amount of time that she spent to drive to meet us,
Yep.
and then the amount of time she spent at the con
Yep.
to, like, hang out with us,
Yep.
that was a huge thing for me too. Like, once I was able to step outside of our weekly getting together and see, like, we're having an impact on people,
Yeah.
that was huge.
Yeah.
I've never felt like quitting, but that's partially because I live so much in my head. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking all the time, and so for me the podcast has always been a giant heap of potential, and so I don't think I could ever rip myself away from the possibilities of what we can do with what we've started. So there has definitely been times it's been super hard. There's been times that I've been frustrated, or times where I probably underestimated how difficult certain things would be for me.
Oh, certainly.
And ended up like realizing that I've like locked myself into, like, way more work than I had planned. And so those times are always really hard and make it difficult for me to, like, keep moving forward. But I think my drive has always been like, dude, first of all, I think we have such limitless potential, but a lot of that limitless potential has come from our listeners and the people who are supporting the Patreon, the people who support the podcast. And I will say, for like every one time someone is a total like a-hole, there's like 20 to 40 to 100 people that are like glowing responses.
I do want to say, like, I firmly believe that we have the best fans in the world, and there have been so many, not just Therese, so many that have made like this so worthwhile. Therese was just the one in that moment, the one that I needed, but like because of how I'm structured as a human being, that 1 to 1,000,000 tweet that's harsh,
it hurts.
It hurts real bad. And so just for myself, I knew I had to cut myself off. But I do want to say, all of you who are supportive and kind, or even if you don't like Brenna and you keep it to yourself, I so value you and appreciate like your engagement with this podcast, because that above all is like the motivation to keep going.
Yeah. We literally had a listener who took the first episode and wrote it novel style.
That's true.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, and now I'm like, my brain is going like, what are the possibilities of like fan made stuff? You know what I mean? Like, cause then the potential of like the whole story just like explodes.
Yeah.
So
I was telling Josh yesterday, I think, like, George Lucas wrote Star Wars, but it was all the other novelists that really built it into the rich, deep universe that we know it to be today. Like, Star Wars is only so dense because other people took that molecule of an idea and exploded it into an actual full-blown thing. So,
yeah, man.
If you ever feel the need, like, to ask for permission, here it is. Go crazy. Write fan fiction. Create new cities.
Yeah, we're done with volume 1.
Yeah.
The
And
world is
share
your
it with
oyster.
us. Like, send it to us. Like, and
I would love to see it.
yeah.
Mike, you've been quiet for a bit.
It's because Mike is mute.
Yep.
Mike's
Oh,
mic isn't
never
on?
mind.
Here's a question from Joseph. How many different wish options did you play over in your head when you were deciding how to use it to finish off the campaign?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I think I only had one, but I think the toughest thing for me was to put myself back into Sherwood's character and feel not the pressure of ending the story, but what Sherwood would do when he came out of the plane. So it was kind of like, what would be his motivation? Would it be something funny? Would it be, would he understand the situation and do obviously the final thing that he did, the most optimal thing. But I think like me finding that rhythm of like putting that kind of spin on what, making him into a tree felt more Sherwood than to just outright kill him.
Yeah. I love the flavor behind it.
Yeah.
The result was the same, but the way you phrased it and like constructed it was beautiful.
Yeah. So I think, and I talked to Reed too, and I think Reed was more in preparation for me to do something wacky, and I never really felt like I was like, I'm gonna just do something like eat it again or like do something like that. So yeah, one for me.
I have a follow-up question. Like, how long was that wish thing planned? Was that planned since you ate it, or like?
That's an excellent question. That got asked by a bunch of different people. I don't actually have the list right in front of me, but it was so many people asked that question. So I apologize if I'm not naming you in particular. I was driving to a recording session here when I had the idea that Mike or Sherwood was going to use. Oh, I found the list. Sorry. Kellen, Hi Mom, I'm on TV, Braden Young, Chris Manning, Miles, and Chris Stewart. All of you asked in some way about the wish spell and how long it would, or like what everything, how it all came together. So thank you for that. So I was driving here in my car, and it literally just hit me like a brick in the face. It was, I don't even think I was thinking about the show at all. I just popped in my head, Sherwood's going to come back. He's going to use the wish spell to defeat Valisar. I had no idea how. The logistics made no sense to me. But as soon as I parked in Josh and Kelsey's driveway, I texted Mike. I said, you have to call me as soon as you get this. And so Mike called me on his way to record. And I explained everything to him. And I said, I don't know when. I don't know how. But I just need you to know that this is going to happen. So prepare for it. And that was about 3 months before we ever recorded it. And then about 2 weeks before we recorded the finale, I figured out how to get Sherwood back through Westra. Even I didn't know how to get Sherwood back even after Westra had already joined the party. So that wasn't like the impetus for that. That just that happened to like work out that way.
Yeah.
And so it was right around the time where she like touched the crystal and gained the power, like the supercharged suit powers, that I kind of like was piecing everything together. So yeah, that's how that happened. And then I told Mike he had total freedom to write what he wanted. He could either tell me or keep it a secret, and I would try and plan either way. Actually, if you're a patron on our Patreon and you're like our DM notes tier, you'll see in my the last entry I have for what ended up being the finale. I have I've written down my response for the tree. I have written down a response for if he just said, "I wish Valisar never existed," which is a much bigger spell.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I have a third option that just says, Mike says something unexpected, good luck. and yeah, so what's funny is as I was prepping for option 2, which is Mike makes it so Valisar never existed, I effectively had to write everyone's own epilogue. So I'm like trying to like put together what I think your characters would have done, because I can't ask you guys. Because,
if we like never met in the first place and like.
So like, I think Grayek was like leader of the clan, everything like that. Oh gosh, I don't even remember. Akio was a cook right away because wizardry never became a thing because magic only entered the world once the portals opened, and the portals never opened. So like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's like a bunch of like really severe consequences, and like I think Silvana was like still just chilling out with you guys. She was just like out in the world like always. It was really bizarre. I'm glad it didn't come to that because that was a lot of like mental backtracking on my part. So yeah, excellent question, and thank you for the follow-up, Kelsey. Dan, question for you. In the Plane of the Damned, the Colonel used a rabbit to see because he could talk to small animals. Why was he able to talk to animals?
I believe it was some spell that I had. I don't have my app in front of me, but it was some.
It was like native to barbarians, right?
Yeah, speak with animals.
It's a barbarian thing.
Yeah, actually, I had something. It was literally, you could see through the eyes of a small creature.
That wasn't like flavor that we added. That's actually part of the character.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't remember what the subclass was either. But
I was super excited when when the Colonel got blind. I think it was a one-time daily use thing.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, this is going to be so much fun to play.
As soon because that episode ended right after you went blind.
Yeah.
And I was so excited about the possibilities of that, and like obviously it didn't work out like long term, but like that was very short burst brilliance.
Yeah. Which
I was very much enjoyed. Josh.
Yo.
Josh.
What happened to Grayek's mom?
Okay.
This is from Emma Spring, by the way. And if I didn't specify that question to you, Dan, was from Daniel. Did you write your own question? Daniel.
Back at it again with
I'm glad we have the cameras on you this time because now we can
get
actually
the eyes.
see. Yeah. This is what we see every episode.
This is normal.
So Greg's mom, I didn't flesh out a ton for Greg's mom. I did go back, and the original story that I wrote, the Hope of Hammer Hall, I added on to that even after I produced it for the podcast.
As one sane person does.
Sure, yeah. That like no one will ever see or hear. But basically, I have it so like because basically everyone turns their back on him, and the whole deal is no one on Vorstead can talk to him until he leaves. Like he's basically shunned as like an outsider, and so my plan was that as he's getting ready to get on the boat that eventually takes him to Norwich, that his mom would meet him there, and they have a whole moment. She's the only person willing to see him, and kind of gives him some of the life back in him, so that by the time we see him on Norwich, it kind of explains why he's not like in this like depressed, terrible state. She kind of helps him get to the place where he starts to look at it as an adventure. But she's not like she's not a warrior. That's why we never saw her like again, because there was no reason to see her. She was just someone she was basically the queen of Burgess, and kind of, I mean, I'm sure she was warrior capable. You know? But I always saw her as more of a like smacking Bragan's head kind of gal who like helps get things done. Yeah. That's all. I didn't flesh her out a ton.
No, I like it.
Is
Kelsey.
she based on your real mom?
No.
That
No.
just sounds like something your mom would do.
Yeah, my mom. Yeah.
Mama.
Maybe she is based on my real mom. Because my mom, if I got banished from like everybody, my mom would be the one person that
The
would
only person.
would go against that. Yeah, maybe she is.
I
yeah.
would banish
I
you.
know. I had a
so
great
hard.
mom, so I got no qualms with that.
That's pronounced quaffs. Kelsey, how many times did you end up singing the Ballad of Sherwood in the week leading up to the final session?
Leading up to the final session?
Yeah.
0.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
I decided in the moment.
Yeah, which was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Both times.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Both
yeah.
times. Singing it to Sherwood when he showed up, and then... Wait, I didn't sing it a second time, did
No,
I?
I just.
Yeah, just when he showed up.
Just when he showed
yeah,
up.
no, I was like... singing it would be better than being like... Hey, I wrote a song about you, so we're cool now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like that you like started it like from within the song.
I'm like, wait... Well, she doesn't need to tell the tale of Sherwood to Sherwood. He
Yeah,
lived
yeah.
it. She just needs to tell him how it like resolved.
Yeah.
I just like most of my best RP moments were completely improv. Like I am not a planner.
Well, that's how you know you're actually like role playing at that
Yeah.
point. Is like you're acting as the character would act.
Yeah, Josh is like, what if this and what if that, and I'm like, please stop talking to me. Like I'm trying to go to bed. Like I don't wanna
I've
talk
got
about
like
this.
mind maps of like
Yeah.
what my character
Yeah.
could do.
And we'll be
to,
like out at
any
date
different-
night, and he'll be like, so what do you think Brenna's gonna do when this happens? And I'm like, I don't know.
What's the org
like
chart?
I'm not Brenna, so
Yeah, that's funny. So
we just play very differently.
leading into that, that's an excellent setup for this next question by Kayla Stevens. For Josh and Kelsey, do you guys bounce ideas off each other before you bring them to the group? So
Josh bounces everything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just a fat guy who
Tweets.
bounces all the time.
I read all of his tweets before he sends them.
What?
I read all of his tweets before he sends them. Anytime he has a
true.
character
She's my
idea.
life editor. Like she like
Could I ask
She copy
Reed
edits your
this?
life.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
go, I don't know, just ask him. And it's just
Yeah.
a constant. I do not really bounce ideas off of Josh.
But for real, I do like I took strength finders recently,
Mhm.
and my top 3 were all heavy thinking strengths.
Okay.
And so like I just am always in my head, and so
in his face box.
like by the time I like I stay in my face box thinking all the time. But by the time I bring it to Kelsey, I've probably already like gone over things in my own brain like
Yeah.
4 or 5 times. But she bounces stuff off me too.
Like what?
You'd be like,
You name one thing.
Prove
okay,
it.
first of all, by bouncing it off me, you're never asking me what I think.
Yeah, no, I don't care.
You're
what he
always
thinks.
just telling me what you're thinking, and then I'm supposed to respond.
Like what?
Well, even like, I get that honestly because my wife is the same way. She'll ask me like what I think of some outfit she's wearing. I could tell her it's the ugliest thing, and I will tell her because that's the type of relationship we have. She just goes, I don't care, I like it, and she walks out. Like, she doesn't want my approval. She literally just wants to know what I think.
Just to share with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I even phrased it as a question to you.
Never. No, you're
don't
like
give you that
you'd be sitting
opportunity.
on the couch like writing something and go, so I'm gonna take Brenna through da 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 da, and I'd go, okay, and I'd be like, what do you need from me? And you're like, nothing. I just want you to know like that's what
I just want you to know.
that's what I'm
Just
doing.
keeping you in the loop.
Yeah.
That's cool. This question is for all of us, and it's from Fish.
Fish.
people.
Fish person. Excuse you.
Yeah, singular. Says, this is for everyone, including the glorious DM. That's his words, or
Who's
their
that?
words.
Glorious.
Oh.
Wow.
Who's that?
I don't know. What?
Why is every time DM's mentioned after that in all the questions it says glorious after?
Does it? I don't sure. Find and replace powerful tool. What, if anything, would you have chosen to do differently? Different choices in the plot, different character attributes, or maybe killing off less dads? Question mark.
I think it worked out pretty well.
Glorious DM.
Would you still have shrugged?
Oh, that's a good question.
My wife gave me such a hard time about that.
I love her so much.
We probably need to wait till she's
such
finished,
a hard time.
and then you can make a list of all the things you would have done differently.
Yeah.
She's your moral conscience.
Oh. I probably would have done something as more of a immediate reaction. What? I couldn't tell you. I've not thought back to that moment like, oh, what could I have done? It was just, any thought I've had about that moment was I should have just like fired from the hip and done something.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think like at me playing the Death Knight there, I was waiting for something that just like never came. And so
I think too long and too hard about like what I'm gonna do. Like
Oh.
I
You're
start to
very-
be like,
yeah.
I think going down a path, and so I'm like, oh, if I do this, and this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, and then it'll result.
by
in
the
this,
time
and then
by the time you land, the chess move is over and
it's
you've
over.
missed your turn.
It's over. Yeah.
So you think too long and too hard, and I think too fast and too furious.
Which is funny, you can tell because if you're like watching Danny's face, like it looks like he's not paying attention sometimes, but he's really just
Yes.
like playing out every scenario
He's
in his head,
process-
trying
He's
to
absorbing.
figure it out.
He's
Yeah.
absorbing it.
Whereas Josh is constantly talking. So
Mike, anything you would have done differently?
Nope, no regrets.
No regrets.
No
No
regrets.
regrets.
I would have. I've said this before. I think in a previous mailbag, I would have chosen not to have Akio take the effect of the whale from Delphina. I did not know it would lead to his eventual death. We got great moments out of that, so I don't regret it from a narrative perspective, but I do regret it from like going back on my own rules perspective of like letting a natty 20 absolve you from the effect. But it was really cool, and I wanted it to land, and so I forced it. So I felt bad about that. Yeah.
I know. I don't know if you were gonna keep going on that one, but I know what I would have changed if I had changed anything. Is I'd have been way less of a rules lawyer. I feel like I created more grief out of like my knowledge of the rules than like benefit.
well, at least
So,
he realizes
I
it
just-
now.
We've got some buddies who are like DMing for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're getting to, and a lot of them are DMing with groups that are not experts at D&D. And part of the thing they love about it is that there's no one's like questioning any rules. They're just playing the game, and the game is super fun. And you don't stop to go, can you do that? Can't you do that? Or should someone be allowed to do that? And so, looking back, and in the future, I'm gonna try to be less about like, oh, the rules don't say you can do that, Reed, or, you know,
You won't know any of the rules to Volume 2.
I had to write a whole new system.
get around me.
He was
That
like,
the-
I'm sick of people telling me how to play my game. I'll write my own.
That's right. One more thing I would have changed is probably told a more concise story the whole way through. I feel like I tried to include a lot of different elements that I thought were cool when I thought them up. And rather than like saving them for a different time or really like analyzing, is this the right opportunity to inject something new to the table, I probably would have held back on a few things. Specifically, would have like a precise example would have been like the whole doppelganger shapeshifter saga, like that whole thing. That just did not play out the way I intended because he wasn't as big, like Dragus wasn't as big of an element early on as I had intended. So I kind of just like tabled it, but then I figured out, like, you went back to Bright Cove, so I figured I'd bring him back with this side plot, and then I tried to bring in the earlier elements of like, ooh, the good and bad factions of shapeshifters, but that like I didn't give enough explanation as to why, and so like it eventually kind of fell flat. The whole plan I had with the shapeshifters was, yeah, like there are good, bad, and neutral shapeshifters that are like trying to stealthily, sneakily influence like the course of history. So like you would see them like trying to influence a politician or like work in the shadows to get a politician elected who they believe could like build the future of Brandis towards the direction they wanted. So there was like a bad faction that wanted like their own motivations, and a good faction that wanted to oppose them with their own motivations, and a neutral that's trying to just like keep both of them at bay. And it just like it never really panned out. So like that's why like that snake guy that led Akio into the desert, that's why he did that, because the snake guy was one of the bad shapeshifters who wanted to use Akio's power for bad.
Like a Kyo.
Yeah. And like, so he knew that you had like these dark desires and was gonna like exploit your guilt over your friend to try and like give you something that looked good on the surface, which was this gift, but then they were expecting you to use it for like what they wanted you to do. And so like I never really like categorized it very well. It just never really panned out. There was a lot going on at that moment with like Ophelia being revealed at that same time and the Chronicum being a big deal. And like, so it just like, it all just kind of got overshadowed. I wish I just would have told a more tighter narrative and just kind of maybe left the shape changer thing for a different campaign or something. But
Still a lot of room for fanfic. You could have a whole fan fiction about shape changers.
That's
in the
true.
World of Brains.
I wouldn't necessarily do anything. I don't have regrets. I don't know how I want to classify this. I wish I had been better about managing my spell slots, my cantrips, and all that stuff. Because I felt like in the final battle, like I had check boxes for each thing that was available, and I was like trying to maximize everything, and like I still didn't use all my stuff because everything worked out so perfectly plot wise. But like I'm so ready for Volume 2 because I'm gonna kill the most OP class you could possibly want, and I'm gonna be so good at it, and that's my goal.
All right.
Great.
We've talked about Volume
Can't
2.
wait.
We've talked about Volume
up,
2
Mike.
a little bit so far. And we've gotten quite a few questions about Volume 2 specifically. So Trent asks, with Volume 2 being set in space, are you transferring from 5e to another system? Cyber Wraith asks, is the campaign still going to be D&D or a new system? Or Eonic Drifter, Rory, Matt...
McElroy?
Sorry.
Nisley?
Nisley, Matt Nisley, says kind of the same thing, as well as Joseph again. Just asking if we're using 5e or if we're doing something new. The answer is yes to both. So I am taking the skeleton of 5e and putting my own body, my own skin and flesh on top of that. So what you're going to see is...
Gross.
Yeah. By the time it's done, it will be gross, but, you know.
Will be beautiful like Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah,
Kill me.
I was just about to make that reference. Good.
But, so I'm having, like, the 6 main abilities. I'm having a lot of familiar skills. Advantage is going to exist. The way the game functions, actions, reactions, bonus actions, long rest, short rest, that's all there. But I am building custom classes and custom races to land in this world, as well as some new skills, some new attributes. But ultimately, everything will still be grounded within the combat mechanics of 5e, the kind of just like ability mechanics where all skills are tied to an ability. That's all going to stay the same. Because people have asked me a bunch, why aren't you switching to Starfinder? Why aren't you switching to
Yeah.
Spelljammer? Why don't
Yeah.
you do something more custom to a sci-fi adventure? And honestly, because I hate those.
Systems.
I hate those systems.
Yeah.
I hate Pathfinder.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know there's some hardcore Pathfinder fans out there, and if you love numbers, awesome. I don't.
5e is so elegant.
It's the best version of player freedom without being overbearing.
Yeah.
It's lightweight, it's nimble, and it just allows for a ton of creative freedom. So I don't care who's flat-footed, sure-footed, I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't want all the extra rules and all the extra nonsense. I want something simple that I like. And so that is kind of the crux behind why I decided to stick with the 5e formula and then just build on top of it. I don't know that I can even call it 5e. I don't know that I can call what I can even call Volume 2. I'm not really concerned about that, though. But whether it's D&D or not at that point, I don't know. I'm going to make something that I hope people enjoy and that the players enjoy. And so that's what's happening with Volume 2. That has led to another very commonly asked question of like, what can we play this thing? If it's all new, can we play this thing? The answer is hopefully.
Yeah.
I would like to, after we've got our legs under us for a bit with Volume 2, release a world book or like a player's handbook, a manual, whatever you want to call it, that has all of my races, all of the classes, all of my equipment and items, and everything that I have planned for Volume 2, you can take and then integrate into a game you want to play. With Volume 1, that's just not possible. I have, oh my gosh, so many people asked about that. I'm going to go through that list, actually.
But like all people wanting like a world book.
Because it's exhaustive. Yeah, Paul Postel, Kyle Gifford, Tom N., Blaine Markey, Kale, and Sydney Von Bose. No, I will not be releasing a Volume 1 handbook or world book. I apologize. My notes are absolute chaos. And to be able to, it would take me more time to try and put together a world book than it would be to build Volume 2. So, unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. But I appreciate the fact that you guys want it. And like we already said, take what we built and go with it. You've got 156 hours of content to explore and use and grow into your own thing.
And the Brandis races and classes don't diverge so heavily from the core rule book that there necessarily needs to be a lot of explanation.
Yeah, honestly, the only thing that's really different in my world is high elves and wood elf culture.
Yeah.
But the racial features and attributes, that's all the same.
Yep.
So, like I said, take it, go with it. I hope that we can put together something fun for Volume 2. I'm planning on putting together something tangible that you can put in your hands for Volume 2. Really excited about it, but just nothing for Volume 1. I apologize.
The closest thing for Volume 1 is that there are fans working on like a fan wiki.
Yep.
That's going to be probably the closest thing where you can look up different lands and cities and people.
Yep. Okay, this is for everyone again. This one's from Gore Kitten. I don't know if it's like Al Gore's.
I think that's
Cat?
what I'm going
Yeah,
with.
definitely.
If your characters met each other in real life, what would they think of you? Josh?
Huh?
If Grayek met you in real life, what would they think of you?
If Greg met me in real life,
Yeah.
he would think I'm a total waste of a human being. He
Okay.
would be
When
like,
did Greg ever think that about a person in the campaign?
I don't know. I
I
just,
feel like that's out of character for him.
I don't know. I view Greg as like a very strong and like do things physically guy, and I am not that. So
Yeah, but I don't think that he.
I think he'd be skeptical as to my value. You know what I mean? Like he'd I don't know.
I get it. Like, dwarves, like, a test of a dwarf's merit isn't, like, your level of intelligence or, like,
Yeah.
not necessarily. It's, like, how well can you hold yourself in battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for real, me and Edwin probably would have jammed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
sure.
Josh in real life and Edwin, we would have had philosophical conversations about the existence of monotheism and multitheism. You know what I mean? Like all the freaking time. But like, yeah, Greg would not be interested in all my heavy thinking.
Mike?
They would think I'm awesome.
Both Sherwood and Milo?
Yes.
Would you be nice to them?
Yes.
Especially Milo.
Especially Sherwood.
Three best
Especially
friends.
Milo. 'Cause I can only be nice to myself.
Fair enough.
Kelsey?
I think Brenna would try and fix me, and I would try and fix Brenna, so it would be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Akio and Dan would be like the scene in the Parent Trap movie when both girls are locked in the cabin together and figure out that they have lots of similar.
The two Spider-Mans pointing at each other, JPEG?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it would be that.
Reed, what would Reed think of you?
Yeah.
Same thing as really. He hates himself. So,
Oh, wow.
you know.
What would Valasar think of you?
We'd be tight.
Like
What
I like
would-
how like how many dads you kill.
I think we'd be tight.
What would,
many dads
what-
you got?
More importantly, what would Dath Maros think of you?
Dathmeros would think I'm weak.
And what would Tegan think of you?
Tegan and I would be bros.
Even after he
They go out
betrayed
drinking.
everyone?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So much grace.
Yeah. Colonel?
Oh, yeah, Colonel.
Oh, the Colonel and I would not get along at all.
Because of you or because of him?
Oh, definitely
Oh.
because of him, right?
Yeah, because I feel like the Colonel doesn't really care personality. He's just gonna be the most obnoxious person, and I would I'd meet him and be like, no, nope. I'm gonna go the opposite direction of that person.
Okay. That's for everyone again. Thank you, Gore, for that submission. Volume 1 superlatives.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Good
yeah,
word.
yeah. How
So,
about this?
what would each of the 5 of you get for like the characters you played? You know, for those of you who don't know, like a superlative is like the thing you get in a high school yearbook, like most likely to succeed.
That's the one I got in middle school and in high school.
Oh,
Thank
really?
You very much, yes.
Okay, so what would Brenna get?
Most likely to be president.
Fair enough. Pretty much got it.
Yep.
Akio?
Most likely to die first.
Dad.
Most likely to not make the reunion.
Yes. Yes.
Josh.
I was gonna say Greg could be the most likely to accidentally murder.
Akio.
Accidentally.
I don't know.
I'm scared for them.
Dude, I what are some of the things in high school yearbooks like most likely to?
It depends on the
Yeah.
high school, most
We
likely
never
to
did
succeed.
any of those.
But
No, our high school did.
Yeah, we're like,
it's
come on.
not. It's not very Christian to do it.
Our
so-
class,
not.
our class had
How
like
dare
like best future dad.
Did they?
Yeah,
Who got
What?
that?
Drew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ours had.
Ooh, Greg's would be best beard.
Well, yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
yeah.
Anything for Milo or Sherwood?
I don't know. Maybe like first to get a face tattoo or something. I don't know.
For Milo or for
For both of
Sherwood?
them.
For
For both
both
of
of
them.
them. Got it.
First to get a face tattoo.
I'm changing mine to most tucked beard.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Love it. Thank you.
It's the only tucked beard, so.
Another one from Nathan Hubbard. Do you all get together outside of gaming? And he says, keep up the great work. Yes. Yeah, we do. Honestly, we were
like
friends
each other.
first.
Yeah.
We were friends first, and we remain friends first. So,
I mean, I wasn't really friends with Danny and Mike beforehand, but now they can't get rid of me, so.
I feel like I wasn't as good of friends with you guys until the podcast. I like Reed and I
Yeah.
were close.
yeah,
Josh
no, I
and
guess
I-
that's true.
Josh and I weren't friends. before
I
the
only ever really
podcast.
interacted with the two of you when we played D&D before, but now like we've gotten lunch and like
Yeah.
I
yeah.
say we were friends first, but that's because I was individually friends with all of them first. But
Yeah.
True.
in terms of like the other combinations, no, that wasn't always the case.
Yeah.
You the glue.
I'm
I
just
like-
saying it's
You the glue.
Yeah, I could hang out with any of them. I love all of their wives, their children. It's kind of.
say I love all their wives too.
Same.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I love all
I
but
love-
one of their wives. I'm not gonna eyes closed, not looking.
Don't.
Do you love
Don't
my
panic.
wife?
I do. It's
Your
Kelsey's
wife is
wife.
the best.
I
Your
don't love
wife is
Kelsey's
the
wife.
best.
She's pretty and redheaded.
She's
Got
so
big
cool.
beard.
The biggest beard. This one's from the Brick Phone Bandit.
Okay.
Which one of you is the biggest weeb?
Oh,
Probably me because I don't
Josh.
know what a weeb
It's
is.
Josh.
It's definitely Josh.
I'm not a weeb.
What's
Oh,
a weeb?
What's a
Okay.
yeah?
A weeb is someone who's totally immersed and obsessed in anime culture.
Oh,
If
Josh.
anyone at this table is, it's you.
I am
It's
not
the
a
big.
weeb.
It's the biggest weeb.
I'm the closest to
That's
being.
it.
Then
yeah,
you win.
So therefore,
0.1 is more
so
than 0.
therefore,
You're the
you are
winner.
the biggest. You have a Final Fantasy poster somewhere in this attic that I've tried to give away multiple times. and you
That's
won't
true.
let
You
me.
tried to give it away to me, and I
Yeah.
said nah.
It was
And
given
I-
me by
No,
a friend.
Josh was like,
I didn't
"You
buy
can't
it.
get rid of that."
Let
Which
me just
Final
say,
Fantasy one, though?
assuming that I like anime just because I'm Asian,
I didn't say you
Wow.
like
For shame.
because you're Asian.
For
shame.
shame.
You were thinking it though.
Who here watched Dragon Ball Z as a kid?
I'm not. No one else. No one else is raising their hands.
Seriously?
No one else is raising.
I
their
have, but
Guys.
I'm not raising my hand though,
Come on.
because I'm not a weeb. Only a weeb would raise their hand.
And yeah,
Mike wanted to know about
I
your
love
poster.
Voltron.
Yeah, which Final Fantasy is it?
It's Sephiroth.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
It's not even 8, the good one, or 9, the good one.
And honestly, he
Or
looks
6,
like
the
you
good
That's a
can't-
very casual
10-2,
Final
the good
Fantasy
one.
fan.
Yeah, like I'm.
take.
I'm
That's
not,
like a hot topic thing you would get.
I know.
You're like,
He
where's
bought,
the Final?
my friend bought 2 posters. He bought Cloud and Sephiroth. And he's like, I wanted to give you this. And I'm pretty sure he got him in like a deal. He just didn't want the Sephiroth poster. Because it kind of looks like a lady.
So why do we have it?
Why
I don't know.
not?
It was given by a friend. I don't
Who?
Zach?
I got a garage full of stuff to give you.
Look what you've done.
Yeah.
So-
Here, take my. Take my
But for
stuff.
real, Studio Ghibli, anything with the name Hayao Miyazaki on it, you should watch.
I thought it was Ghibli.
Ghibli, who
Oh.
cares?
Ghibli Google.
Either
Just
Ghibli
give
if you're a
peanut
weeb.
butter,
Either pronunciation is fine.
Yeah.
crunchy,
Dragon's a
crunchy.
great one.
This one is for everyone, but I think it's probably going to be more targeted to Kelsey.
I like answering questions.
This is from Taft Faust, Matt, and Derek Laws. They all want to know what's the deal with the little
What's the
glass
deal?
sphere that was given to us
Mm.
by the father and their daughter.
Yeah, I don't
And it's-
remember what we came up with.
Well, I know the origin of the sphere, but you gave it to your dad
Yeah.
to go on an adventure
Yeah,
with.
so Beatrice
Yeah.
and Brinlin went on this adventure together. My dad made a promise to me that he would, and I like to think that it sparked a sense of adventure in Beatrice, and it reminded my dad that adventuring isn't all that bad. And Reed and I had a long conversation about the glass marble, and I was going to write a story, but I write a lot, and then I never share it with anyone, so that never happened.
And I think the cave that they were going to explore
Yes.
was going to be the cave that shows up in the
Yes.
story in stone.
Yes.
Yep.
It was.
Yeah, so there's actually like 3 stories that converge all within that cave
Yep.
and within that like path there. So Josh wrote the story in stone about the stone that formed the three hammers that was found in that cave.
An ancient elven city underground.
Right. Brenna told her dad and sister to go on an adventure because Beatrice had been sheltered her whole life because they feared they lost Brenna.
Yep. But
And
they didn't. Can't get rid of her.
the origin, which I had zero purpose for the stone when I gave it to him. I literally just wanted it to be like an idea bubble.
Yeah, it could lead somewhere.
Could be anything. This is just like a gold exclamation point above a character's head in a video game. If you want to take the quest, you can. Otherwise, you can just leave it.
Yeah, but you're not going to go flesh all that out until
yeah,
we like
exactly.
show interest.
So I learned
That's
my
smart
lesson.
DMing.
I learned my lesson there. So because it never developed in anything, which is totally fine, it didn't need to. I did eventually come up with an origin of it though, and in elven culture, women are and the high elf side are regarded as more valuable than men. Houses are only allowed to have one male per household, so any additional male children born were discarded. They were like, cast upon the rocks kind of situation. And there was this group of elves that lived underground that would try and rescue these abandoned elven boys and raise them underground in this like hollowed out elven city that was there for centuries ago. And that is what was going to be the origin of dark elves, if it ever got to that point, because dark elves or drow, they live underground. So the drow population in my game, thank you, Dan.
Magic Uso, baby.
The drow in my game were going to be almost predominantly men, and that was like the flavor behind that. So the stone was almost like your key card. It was your access pass to get in and out of this underground city, underground culture, and civilization without like getting attacked. So it was kind of like, hey, you were given to this by someone who made a pilgrimage out of the caves as a sign that you're cool. If you ever need a place to go, if you're ever in a pinch, you can come here. We'll welcome you because we're a welcoming community, and we know that you don't mean us any harm. That's what I came up with. Again, one of the dozens of plot points that never went anywhere, but just provided some cool little flavor. And if that ever gets turned into a story, that would be super cool. But that was just kind of what the origin of the stone was. Speaking of some kind of just like stories that never went anywhere or answers to questions that a lot of people had, Scott and Jenny Hill, Nikolai and Zachary Rogers, they all ask me in particular, sorry guys, what was like a piece of lore or a story or an element of the campaign that I really enjoyed but we never really got to explore. And we can talk about this as a group too, I guess. That's not exclusive to me. But I have the distinct advantage of DMing for 4 really brilliant players who are constantly inspiring me. So I didn't really have a ton of stuff that I made that I was really bummed we never got to see. A couple notable exceptions would be like, obviously the quest I pitched, like episode 1 or 2 from the general store owner. Also that dude on the road, which was the same quest. The dude on the road when you got swindled by Farlow a second time.
The purple sword dude. Or
Yeah.
pink sword.
Yep. The family sword. And then,
Farlow.
yeah, Farlow. People have been asking about him too. So
He did.
I would have loved to have done that quest just because I think it's a cool quest, not because it played into a larger thing with the lore of the story, just because it was something fun to do. Same goes for the Troll's Blood. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh my
that's
yeah.
The one,
gosh.
that's the one I wish we had done.
We were gonna have like regenerative abilities.
Yeah. So if
Shoot.
if you guys would have taken the quest from that crazy wizard that was living in that hotel,
Yep.
you would have helped to make a potion that would have given you regenerative abilities.
Man, imagine all the stuff we could have done before the time jump too. Like,
Yeah, the time jump changed a lot. So
Yeah.
I'll always wonder about that ring quest.
Axe grinder.
Delivering the ring.
No,
Oh,
the
someone-
very first quest.
someone asked about that. Someone asked if Svenholm ever did get married. because you guys never delivered the ring to his betrothed.
Mhm.
So I'll just rip this Band-Aid off. He didn't exist.
It was a trap.
It was a trap set up by Juno Tea Leaf.
Juno Tea Leaf.
She was a kind of like upper level Prince of the Apocalypse, Pineapple Gang middleman kind of thing.
Ugh.
To where she would work with the princes to lure like new people because they were right near the port, so she would see a bunch of new faces. She would lure people out into this really desolate path to Wolf's Hollow. Is that the name of the city? Yeah.
Yes.
And then she would tell the Pineapple Gang, there's some new guys coming, jump them and take their stuff. So
I had this fiction in my mind.
Oh,
of
no.
How that played out, and it's totally ruined.
What was
Do
your
you
fiction?
need to talk about it?
Yeah.
You okay? Do you
Oh.
want to cuddle Gray?
There's like this rom-com fiction that existed, and it just didn't work. No, doesn't work because it was all fake.
I'm sorry. The plan was always for you guys to get jumped, but the plan was never for you to be strong. Like Juno didn't know that you guys were like adventurers and could actually like hold your own in battle.
Yeah.
So she sent you guys just same way she sends a bunch of bright-faced idiots who think that they can take on the world, but the Pineapple Gang was no match for you guys. So you bested them, and then that obviously began the Pineapple Gang quest all the way to the end.
Began our list of murders.
You mentioned a little bit like the time jump and stuff like that. I want to talk about that as well because I have a whole host of questions from Scott at Level 20 Gamer, Gage Riley, Josh Marshall, Joshua, which I'm pretty sure that's just Josh here, Mr. Seth Thomas, and Ali G, Chase.
Did I enter a question?
I don't think so. And Ryu Semasaman.
Right.
I don't know. But they all want to know, would picking the book have changed anything?
Oh.
The
Everything.
moment we've all been waiting
This
for.
is it. Everyone had wondered since like episode 40, would picking the book have changed anything?
I haven't slept since episode 40 because of this.
I am sorry.
It's like 2 years.
That's like
without
2
sleep,
years,
guys.
Absolutely. Picking the book would have changed everything.
Great. I'm still not gonna sleep.
I'll tell you specifically what would have changed.
Can we go back and just like play it out?
No.
Volume 2.
Volume 2.
It's nothing but going back to the book.
Multiple dimensions.
Oh gosh, that'd be actually really fun if I didn't want to blow my brains out at the thought of it.
Yeah.
So the time jump would not have happened if they'd picked the amulet, including the long rest.
You mean the book?
If they had not picked the amulet.
Oh, not.
Yeah. By picking the amulet, it jumped forward 35 years, whatever it was. The long rest contributed like 5 years, but not a ton, honestly. Like,
Sad.
and the long rest from a like game perspective, like an actual like narrative perspective, I don't think I even would have changed like what happened in between. Like, I think I probably just would have said like 30 or 35 and had all the results still be the same.
Yeah.
If they would have picked the book, the Council of Races would have been a much bigger deal. So the very basic loose plot I had in my head for if they picked the book, it would have turned into much more of like almost like a dossier. Like, you've got the book, it's a knowledge of all things, and you guys are all that remains to prevent certain things from happening. So what would have happened is all of the Council of Races members would have been targeted, and you would have had to have gone to each of their islands, which is kind of like why I established that whole thing in the first place, to prevent some attack, to save them, or like some type of heist or reverse heist or SWAT style, like bait and switch. I had a couple like very rough ideas planned, and obviously none of them ever developed, which is fine. But you would have been very heavily involved in that whole subplot, the Council of Races. Because you did not intervene, the Council of Races almost disbanded. I think a couple of them died even. I had something written down, but it's been 2 years. I don't remember what it was exactly. But I think some of them died from attacks. Others went into hiding or just like maybe died of natural causes, something like that. But again, they were a much bigger deal until you guys decided to pick the amulet. Again, which is fine. I wasn't trying to coax you guys one way or the other, but...
I'm glad we took the amulet because Beatrice was a thing.
Exactly.
There's also a chance we wouldn't have stopped Valsar.
And Milo.
We may have all died before the actual war for humanity ever happened.
Yeah, I think ultimately it would have been leading towards like you guys are at a race against a clock with some other warring faction, probably the princes still,
Yeah.
and to prevent something from happening.
Yeah.
To prevent like Tegan from assuming power, to prevent the portals from reopening, to prevent all this stuff, and probably it would have culminated in with you guys needing to eliminate like a John Connor Terminator style thing,
Yeah.
eliminate someone who will eventually lead this rebellion, open the portals, whatever. Like not obviously not super fleshed out because I'm not writing two stories, but that was my whole thought in giving you guys the option.
Speaking of the book and Josh asking questions, I want to make something clear because Josh asked me this question while he was editing the epilogue. The one last adventure thing was not planned.
No.
That was
Yeah,
completely
the
improv.
epilogue thing that blew my mind because while I was editing that, I was like when we were doing the epilogue, and the whole do we need to go figure out what happened to Sherwood or no, we need to figure out what happened to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to see if we can find the book and the council races thing.
Reestablish the council.
Like that. I thought all that was planned because it worked out like a perfect
yeah.
bow tie. Like we just ended up going we're going on one last adventure all together. Like
Nope.
it was.
I
And
just
she's like,
started
"Do you want to do
pulling
this? Do you want to do
stuff
this?"
out of my butt.
I'm like, wow, neither Reed or Kelsey planned that. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're good at that.
Yeah.
I went from feeling like someone who was had a net underneath them while they were walking a tightrope to realize there was no net. Like we were just walking a tightrope, and we totally nailed it. Good
or
job.
it's like the end of Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Spoil-
Don't say anything else.
I'm not gonna say it because it's a good book. You should read it,
Yeah.
and there are spoilers, but
So many
Okay.
spoilers.
it's a good book though.
Such a good book.
So, Chase Danny K asked about the troll, specifically about the troll quest. What would have happened if they completed the quest? Literally nothing. Nothing's like major story implications. Just
The regenerative
they would have got some regenerative potions that could have helped them a lot, like in combat stuff, but nothing major. It was just another fun side quest. This is from James Daniel for everyone. How many other tabletop games do we play as a group?
None.
We don't play any as a group, but
we did play Resistance once.
yeah,
That was a tabletop
That's
game.
like a card game,
We were
kinda.
over at was it
Mike's house.
your
Yeah.
house? Yeah.
We don't play traditional like Haunted Manor or whatever that game is
Oh,
called.
I love that game.
It's a fun
13
game.
Dead End Drive.
I don't know what that
We
is.
should play that game together.
Which game?
Betrayal.
Betrayal at House on the Hill. Psh, yes, that's a blast.
Yeah, Betrayal at House on the Hill. Yeah, or like Descent. The Descent or there's
There's
some
a lot of great tabletop.
Yeah.
games
Here's
out there.
something. Don't play Ticket to Ride with Reed.
True
And
that.
we'll just end up running the entire outside of the map, and
I win a Ticket to Ride a lot. Also, if you should play Settlers of Catan with Josh because you'll always win.
True.
I've never won.
He's never
We've
won.
played that game dozens of times.
Yep.
And I'm always second place.
Yep.
And it's a blast because it's gotten to the point where now we team up against him to continue that streak.
Like I am always so
It's
close
true.
to winning. I am always this close to winning. I've never not almost won.
Tiff is
Catan.
one, Reed's
Yeah.
one,
But
I
I've
won.
never won.
Yeah,
I've
between
never won.
Josh, Kelsey, my wife, and myself, we played so many games,
So many games.
and the three of us always win. Josh is always second. It's the best. It's like my favorite little running joke.
Always a bridesmaid.
Do you? This is a good one. This is from Josh M. Do you think you'll find it emotionally difficult to detach yourself from your Volume 1 world and characters and move on to 2?
Oh,
He
no.
says, as a listener, he's finding it hard to let go.
I'm so friggin' hyped for my Volume 2 character and whatever Reed's cooking up for Volume 2. Oh,
I don't think I'll love my Volume 2 character any less. Like, I'm so pumped for what I have planned and, like Danny said, what Reed is working on. But, like, obviously Brenna will always have a special place in my heart, and I'll get nostalgic occasionally, and I'll go and I'll listen to my favorite episodes. But like, the new stuff doesn't mean you can't appreciate the old stuff.
Right.
Like, you can have both.
Yeah.
You
Mike?
can have your cake and eat it, too.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I'll miss him, but I'm excited to do a new character.
Because Milo is roughly based on your son.
Yeah, I was like half of what my son is, like cranked up to like 11. And then Sherwood is definitely just me. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it's just like really RPing this next one, like playing something totally different. I think will be fun.
What about you? You're the one that invested the most into your character from a lore and like planning perspective.
You know what?
What?
And
No.
there's a couple questions about like, you know, the Greyik and will I ever play Greyik again? And and Prairie Girl asks, you know, so now can we kill Greyik?
Was that actually Prairie Girl?
I'm pretty sure it's one of you losers that like gets some.
Okay, own up to it. Did someone submit the question as Prairie Girl? Oh,
No.
that's amazing.
Is that for real, Prairie Girl?
No, Prairie Girl really
Dude,
she really submitted the question.
Dude.
Says now can we kill Greyik?
Wait, have we left jokes about Prairie Girl?
Oh,
in?
yes, yeah.
Then it
Very
might not
few.
have been. Then it might have just been like a fan.
I feel like I
Doesn't
tried to edit
necessarily
them
have
out
to
as
be
much as I
her.
could because I never want to like point out someone and say like that we don't like what they
That's
said.
super
Like,
funny though. That's
Yeah.
so awesome.
if you look
If-
at our
if it's
our like our 1-star reviews,
No, she
you'll
gave us a
find-
4-star.
She gave us a 4-star.
She gave us a
review?
4-star review, but she says that she just likes the show because you just need to die.
Just because I'm the 1-star that knocked
her
I
off.
just,
There's one
I
star
just
for
want
each
to
of
say
us.
shout out to Prairie Girl for being one of the first and only people who hated Josh.
Yeah.
And
That's all I gotta
honestly,
say.
if
Thank
that,
you.
if that's the actual Prairie Girl that asked that question, first off, thank you for sticking out
Yeah.
the 3 because that was an early review.
Yeah, and he
yeah.
talks
Yeah.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
And-
Yeah, if she kept listening as much as she
I-
can.
that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I could have swore it was Kelsey or Mike.
And if it wasn't Prairie Girl, you should tell us who you were so we can
Give you major
applaud
props.
how
Yes.
funny you are. Because
Um,
that was really funny.
Anyway, I feel like I never thought I'd get to realize Greyik as much as I did in the last 3 years. I wouldn't feel right ever playing him again. So I feel very like the door is shut on Greyik. I am finished with Greyik.
Finally.
I'm done with Greyik. However, I'm still gonna always be me. You know what I mean? Like and I'm
You're
always
gonna-
gonna.
you're gonna
Got
go- you're
to
gonna
be
go-
me.
You're gonna go as deep into the next thing.
Yeah, like I think one of the things that's really cool is each of us play that we enjoy playing such different types of characters that I think when we stick to what each of us love, we have a great team mesh. Like no matter what it is. So like my character will always be probably a little bombastic, not the best charismatically. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
so Prairie Girl, you can look forward to that. The things you love about Greg will continue.
It's the only thing Josh knows.
But yeah, I might not do a voice. I might do a different voice.
Not
But
that
we'll,
one.
We'll see.
This is Yoda.
Stop doing
No,
that.
it's Kermit
voice.
Greyik. That's what he calls it.
Are you ready to rumble?
Oh gosh. No, please no. This one comes from Craig. Craig in the UK.
Craig.
Much love, Craig.
Dude.
Craig.
He asks, do we love Sneak Attack more or less than the fans love it? And I have to say, from my perspective, emphatically less.
I don't know. I love it a lot.
I'm like so.
I love it less.
I'm
I
so
guarantee-
convinced it's less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guarantee I love it less.
And that's not an insult to the fans.
No.
Like
No.
that is just
That's a
that's an
compliment.
absolute compliment testament to how crazy passionate you guys are about the show.
That's
They've
true.
made it something
That's
I
true.
couldn't have ever comprehended
Yeah.
it
I
becoming.
don't think I could do the multiple listening through like
No.
repeatedly.
I also don't fan super hard about stuff.
No?
Do you? Yeah, you do. You're obsessive. Never mind.
Yeah, I really do. Yeah. I do with very specific things, but
So, there's a question that actually kind of builds on this idea from Brandon Telly at Makeshift Merc. He says that this obviously started as just having fun playing D&D as a group together, and it kind of blew up on you guys, which has been a lot of fun to watch. The exposure to a spotlight and rabid expectation has its massive ups and understandable downs. Being ordinary folks with a sudden and ever-expanding fan base, what is a great and conversely low moment that's come from the heightened level of interest in your goings-on? Very well thought out question, Brandon. I know it's long, but I made a point to read all of it because it was very well put. I can talk a little bit about a high for me so far. Actually, I have a high and a low if no one else has anything. But a
I
high.
might need like a TLDR of the question.
Okay, great. I'll just read the last half.
Okay.
Being ordinary folks with a sudden and ever-expanding fan base, what is a great and conversely low moment that's come from the heightened level of interest in our
Gotcha.
in our product? So, a high for me would 100% be going to conventions.
Yep.
Alabama and New York were so great
Yeah.
because we got to see people put actual, tangible, faces with just avatars and be like, holy crap, there are 50 people lined up in this library in Alabama who just want to talk to us.
And they're just staring at us, smiling.
And
People
I don't know.
Smile at me.
And I don't know why. Like,
Dude, that when we went to Alabama and like we had the meetup
yeah.
the first night, jaw dropping.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people that showed up and
Meeting Candace for the first time in
New York.
Poughkeepsie
Yep.
was
Yeah.
incredible because we got out of the car and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here!" Like excited. I said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you want us here."
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
it's crazy to me that we're here as like you are. That weird. I mean, it's like it's so bonkers
yeah.
because despite all of this, despite the 4 million plus downloads and the 156 episodes, all that stuff, it still feels like we're still just playing D&D sometimes.
Yeah.
Like we don't get like the human interaction very much. We have local fans, like friends we know and stuff like that. But like really to be written and say, "Hey, we like what you're doing so much. We want you to come to our hometown and talk about it." That's weird.
Yeah.
I love it. That's definitely like
Yeah.
the high.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I already talked about mine like right off the bat. My low was the like unsolicited attacks.
Yeah.
And like I said the first time, you are entitled to your opinion. If you do not like Brenna, that is okay. There are plenty of fictional characters out there that I don't like. But I just think that the way that you express that, people need to take that into account. But in tandem with that, the highs would be people like Therese, like that saving grace of when I want to give up, I know that there's a fan out there. Paul's daughter, meeting Paul's
was
daughter, she's so cute, and she thinks I'm so cool.
Man, yeah. That
Um,
was really cool.
Like before
She
we
wanted
even
us to
met
sign her book because
Yeah.
her dad was having us sign his book.
And before we even met her, like Paul and I tweeted back and forth at each other about like grammar and stuff like that. But he also said that she asked to listen to like Brenna in the car, like my
To her,
voice.
that was you were
Yeah,
Sneak Attack. Yeah, that's really
like
cool.
my voice specifically, which was like so sweet.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear from a little girl like that she likes Brenna,
It's a
yeah,
big
that's it. That's all I care about.
I think actually my high would be the Kelsey birthday video that I put together.
Mm.
There's a lot of fear in me, like sending when I messaged that out to the Facebook fans and said, "Hey, I really want to do this thing for Kelsey. Could you guys come together?" And
Yeah.
part of me is going like, "Gosh, if nobody does, I'm gonna feel so bad." You know what I mean? I'm gonna have like, I won't want Kelsey to see that. You know what I mean? I'd be like, I hate that this didn't work out. You know what I mean? Because in my head, I know that people love what she does and how she's part of the podcast, and so putting it out there and then having so much feedback come back in and being able to put together like a video like that, and then how it hit you. You know what I mean? In the kind of the right place, the right time.
Yeah.
That was for me just as a husband, you know what I mean, and as someone who I want Kelsey to love playing these games. I don't want it to be tarnished with the kind of negative experience, and so it was a big win for me getting to see the community kind of show up.
Yep.
For that.
Another high. When Greg Tito picked me over Josh to be on Dragon Talk, and then
I don't
meeting
think it's
him,
an over thing. I think it's just
picked me over you,
obvious thing.
and then taking my two pretty cheerleader friends to Wizards on the Coast on our vacation in Seattle, and meeting Greg Tito and getting a tour of the office. That was so baller.
That's another high for me for sure. Having Dragon Talk.
Yep.
Greg Tito and Shelly Mazino will reach out and say, "We want to talk to you guys.
Yep.
There are people who are crazy in love with what you're doing. Let's talk about it." So that was really cool too.
Yeah, definitely.
A low for me for sure would be the pressure that I put on myself to maintain some level of standard, unrealistic standard I set for myself.
Yeah.
If you let that escalate too much, then that can take you to a really bad place because you're like nothing is ever good enough at that point. So, which I think there's like you definitely want to be committed to whatever it is you're working on and try and make it the best it can be. But like when you do work really hard on something and then you check the subreddit and people hate it, you're just like, oh my gosh, that feels so bad.
Yep.
And then like you just go into like a shame spiral at that point.
Yep.
It can be bad.
Yep.
It takes a lot putting something you create out there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Like, more than you think it will sometimes.
We're definitely like the content culture right now. So like
Yeah.
anyone with a smartphone can be a content creator. But yeah, like It is really tough.
Especially with the amount of time that you put into it.
That's
too.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more time you put into it, the more pressure you feel
Yeah.
on how it's like what kind of response it gets. It's hard not to live off insecurity when you have an audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you make a tweet, it's like no one liked that tweet. I guess it was a dumb thing to say. Like that's not real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that shouldn't dictate whether or not what you said was dumb. But
Yeah.
Are you talking to yourself?
a little bit, but I also think that's
I
just
do,
good life
I do that
advice.
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is from Alex B. Again to all of us. What is the most important thing you learned from Sneak Attack Volume 1 that will be applied to Volume 2? As characters, anything? Mike?
Mike.
A lot. I mean, I don't know. I think I've said this before, but I think like just being comfortable in a group is huge. I didn't feel comfortable, even though they are my friends. Like it is very, it's an interesting thing to get in front of your peers and your friends to like do stuff like this and put yourself out there to not be like, made fun of, I guess. And when we all make fun of each other, so it's not like a thing of like, but it's like put yourself out there and like hoping somebody else is like coming along with you, and no one's like, well, that was kind of weird that you just did that, you know. And I don't think we ever had those moments, and I'm super appreciative of that. But it's like it's cool because when somebody, it probably took us maybe a year to get to that point where we're all kind of cooking on all engines. But I think it's just cool to see when people are stepping up. And like really putting themselves out there to do that stuff, like we're all kind of rallying along and kind of feeding off each other. So I think like once we have those really cool moments, like people just are more, I don't know. So with Volume 2, I just hope we can, where we ended on like the epilogue in that final episode, like that's where Episode 1 will start.
Right.
And
that
it'll be
level
like,
of
wow,
trust
okay.
almost.
Yeah, and just like we've done a bunch of one shots, so I think there's just more like people just being their character, and it's less about like I'm gonna ease into this character to see how people think. It's like no, just start with your character, and we'll go. You know, if we hate it like Moog, then we'll shame you for the rest of the episode.
What is wrong with the movie?
He's literally the worst character. But I think that'll just be fun. So I'm excited for
Prairie Girl?
everybody.
Very good. Mike is Prairie Girl. Let's
I am Prairie Girl. Yeah.
He's like, what will they not associate with me? Prairies and
a
girl.
anything solar beam. I'm just like,
Yeah.
that's Mike.
It's like, all right. Is this a Pokemon reference? It's Mike. So
Dan? Anything you'll take to Volume 2?
Yes. Don't play a character that's so similar to yourself.
Yeah.
That's good advice for any player out there.
Yeah.
don't play yourself, you know?
Yep.
You still gonna be like a murder hobo?
Oh no.
No.
Oh
You
no.
gonna play straight?
Huh?
You gonna the straight and narrow?
Oh no.
No, that'd be far too easy.
Guys,
found
it's
it-
not
he
black
found
and
another
white.
ledge. He
Guys,
came
it's
away
not
from this
black
one.
and white.
He
Not
found
black
another
and
ledge.
white.
Multiple layers of gray. I love it.
50 Shades of it.
Ooh. This is from
Volume
Genghis. They say, love the show. Will there be a new design style for Volume 2 and including a t-shirt? Yes. And website redesign. Probably.
Maybe, yeah.
The new design, I think is just tweaked versions of the existing like mark and stuff like that, right?
For what?
For Volume 2.
Sorry. Volume
paying
2.
attention.
Not a whole new thing, just
No,
like,
same mark. Just all the stuff that goes along with it. Like we'll ditch all the red and stuff like that, and there'll be new illustrations and stuff like that. So
What
new
colors?
vibes.
Do
It's a
Anything
big
like
move.
anything like the graphic that we teased in the Patreon video
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
with the
That'll
stars
be the start of
and
it. Yeah.
texture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So look forward to that. We'll have more to say about that in probably just like a month or two. So
But in the meantime, go buy a Volume 1 shirt from our website.
you can hit pause again and go buy a second one, maybe one for your friend
Yeah.
if you need to. We'll wait. Let's do a few more of the
You have
group
to
and
do
then
your
we'll switch to
homework.
individuals again. This for everybody. From Virginia and Deanna, they want to know what others consider DMing. I know Josh has, but what about the rest of you guys?
Yes, I want to DM the next one shot from Wizards, and you're all playing female characters.
I'm so down.
I am down for that.
I'm so down.
Oh yeah.
I love that. Wizards, please
Yeah.
tell us to do another episode right now. Like Ask us to do
Well,
something.
do we have to wait for another one?
Yeah, do we have to wait for an
Can
event?
we just do this?
Can some people just reach out to them and tell them please have sneak attack do a
No, I mean,
one
can
shot?
we just
can
do
just
one
make our
that
own.
Oh, we
exists?
just do our own.
Yeah.
I would so do this.
Well, now I'm
please.
getting nervous.
You didn't think there'd be such a positive reception.
Oh,
No, it's
man.
real. It's real.
It's a joke.
Someone
Panic attack.
someone actually asked me a really pointed question. I think it was Craig. Craig asked if there was any risk or fear of transitioning to like sci-fi custom rule set for Volume 2. If we see any potential for like maybe severing ties with Wizards, like to be asked to be asked to do anything like the one shots and stuff like that. I would say I hope not.
Yeah.
Because I think while this might not be called D&D exactly, the heart of it is still very much D&D.
Oh, yeah.
And so I would hope, and every homebrew game has its own rule set to some extent. Like even what we played in Volume 1 wasn't perfect Player's Handbook DMG rules. I mean, my Natty 20 rule is just one example of the many things that I tweak. So I would hope that it's more about the story and the feeling and just the emotion of role playing
Yeah.
and the three pillars of role playing that are very much going to be intact.
Yeah.
So I hope that is the case, but I totally understand if Wizards wants to keep it in brand or like within their platform, which is totally their call. And
We'll go right back to 5e if you want to one-shot us for the females.
Yeah, we will play straight up 5e rules if you want to get us in a one shot. So
Greg.
I have a question that came into me that was asked. Are you guys familiar with my airplane ear popping story?
You were about to tell it and then you didn't.
Okay.
I've heard it.
Yeah, you've heard it? Okay. Someone asked if I could tell it. It's kind of long, like 5 minutes.
Like, I think there was, at one point you were like, I should tell you guys my ear popping story sometime, but not right now because we don't have time.
Yeah.
You had said that. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a nap.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you guys my
Should we
air.
all leave while Reed just tells the listeners that
No.
Yeah, let's all get up so Reed can be alone at the table to tell us.
I definitely don't want that because the reactions are the best part. So I'm gonna give an abridged version of my airplane ear popping story.
I might.
So, a couple years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Charlotte, North Carolina, to watch the Charlotte Hornets play the San Antonio Spurs. I'm a Spurs fan, but I got the chance to go to Charlotte, so that's the game I decided I was going to go watch and root on San Antonio. So I feel fine. I wake up in the morning, I drive to the airport, everything's great. I'm feeling 100%. I get on my plane, which takes me to Chicago, and from Chicago, I have another plane to Charlotte. It's like 10 minutes into the flight from Omaha to Chicago, I feel like death. My head is pounding. It feels like your ears need to pop, but they can't. That whole thing, like when you're in an airplane and
That's
the
terrible.
pressure starts to affect you. I'm sweating. It feels like ice picks in my ears. I'm freaking out. So like I plug my nose and I try to forcefully pop my ears and nothing is happening. I'm chewing gum. I'm eating food, everything I can, and nothing is helping me. So I land I don't land the plane. The plane lands. I bust into the cockpit. We need to land this plane.
my ears won't pop.
So the pilot lands the plane. I get out in Chicago and I'm like, I go to the bathroom. I'm looking at myself. I'm a mess. I don't know what to do. I walk to my gate. I'm just like, I have to go. Like, I have to go to Charlotte. This is what I paid for. So I get on the plane to Charlotte and same thing. The plane ascends. My ears just start going crazy again. This time it's even worse. The flight is longer. And I legit think like I might throw up because of the pain. It's so unbearable. And the plane lands. The pain kind of subsides again because the pressure is finally released. And I leave the airport and I get an Uber to kind of like city center because that's near where the arena is going to be. And so I go to a CVS in this like city center. It's called the Epicenter. If you're a Charlotte resident, you'll know what it is. I go there and there just happens to be, thank God for the Minute Clinic that was attached to the CVS. I go in there. There's actually like a nurse or some type of physician on duty, ready to see people. So I put in my name, and after a few minutes, she comes and gets me. So I walk in there and I say, "Hey, here's what's going on. I just got on a plane. Blah blah blah. This is a situation." She goes, "Oh yeah, let me take a look." She grabs her little ear flashlight thingy, just like for half a second, glances in my ear, goes, "Oh yeah, you've got a really bad ear infection." I felt fine before I got on the plane, and okay, well that's just like an antibiotics thing, right? Like I can take that and be fine. She's like, no, like it's really bad. Like we'll prescribe you antibiotics, but like this is the type of ear infection to where like you need to take precautions type of thing. You can't go swimming. You can't like do any serious roughhousing in fear of the eardrum rupturing. Also, you can't fly in any airplanes. I said, well, that's a funny story because I got here today on an airplane and I have to fly back out tomorrow. She goes, I would highly advise against that. I said, well, I'm really sorry, but I have to get home. She goes, no. Let me tell you, I see 1,000 ears a year. Thousands of ears a year. I never get to tell people don't fly on an airplane. I'm telling you, don't fly on an airplane. If your eardrum bursts, it will be so much worse. The pressure might go away, but the chance of infection, like further possible hearing loss, all this stuff, like it could get really bad. You cannot fly on an airplane. I said, lady, I respect you, but you're in a CVS. I didn't say that.
It's like you waited for Dan to take the last swig of his drink.
So I said, okay, I hear what you're saying. I appreciate it. Let's give me the pills. And so she gave me some antibiotics, gave me some ibuprofen, all that stuff, as much as she could legally give me just to try and make this better. But ultimately, I'm there to go see a basketball game. Mm-hmm. So I pop all the pills I can. I call my dad. I say like, hey, I might not be coming home tomorrow. I mean, I was married. I lived by myself. But I just like wanted to tell my wife and my dad, like, in case I don't come home tomorrow, don't freak out. Mm-hmm. And so, we're chatting, but ultimately I grab my stuff and I walk over to the arena because that's why I'm there. I'm not going to let some measly potential eardrum burst ruin my basketball night. So I go to the arena. I have second row seats.
I remember the picture.
I am on the floor, one row back. It's incredible. Like, the Hornets are so bad that tickets were so cheap. So I was able to get these incredible, directly half court, or center court, second row. It was incredible. So I'm there. There's no one around me, by the way. In my row and the row behind me, there's no one around me. I can wave my arms like a madman and one hit a soul. And so I'm just down there. I'm a 6'5" giant who's feeling kind of crappy right now, just waiting for the game to start, sitting down there by himself. And sure enough, as the first quarter starts, the pressure's actually starting to relieve itself. It feels like liquids coming out of my ears, but it's actually inside my head, like along my jawline. Mm-hmm. It's like the pressure releasing into the sinus cavities that eventually will drain. It's the weirdest feeling in the world, but it's starting to work. And it's like by the halftime, I'm feeling pretty great. Also, by the way, the Spurs were up like 30-7 at the end of the first quarter. It was a blowout. It was insane. And the point of the score is important. But by the time halftime rolls around, I'm actually feeling pretty good. Those meds are incredible. I'm thinking I could probably actually fly home tomorrow. So the second half comes, I'm actually starting to enjoy the game. Well, wouldn't you know it, I'm sitting there during halftime, feeling okay. Got myself a drink, got myself a hot dog. I'm feeling pretty good. And I look around, and they had already called out a Carolina Panthers player who was at the game. He was sitting like right to the right of me, front row, but a little bit further away. So there's some celebrities in the arena. It's like, this is really cool, man. Like, who how many times do you get an experience like this? And I look in front of me, and just like one seat to the left, and I see the back of this guy's head, and I go, this guy looks familiar. Like familiar. So I'm just staring at the back of this guy's head, and I say to myself, I think I'm sitting behind Nelly, the rapper Nelly.
If you want to go and take a ride with me.
Okay.
Yeah. I said, I can't see his face, but I swear I'm sitting behind Nelly. And so I'm just staring at him, trying to get an angle to prove my theory correct. And like he could read my thoughts. At that moment, he turns around, looks me dead in the eyes. And it's Nelly, the rapper, sitting one chair in front of me. He turns around, looks at me, and I'm just like wide-eyed. I freeze. I don't stop looking at him. We lock eyes, and I just like deer in the headlights. And after like 5 seconds of uncomfortable staring, I just kind of wave at him and say, "Hi, Nelly." And he gives me this look like, and then turns back around like he just ate a lemon, and he turns back around. I was like, dang it, I blew it. That was my one shot.
Hi, Nelly.
That was my chance. And then he was there for the game, and what ended up happening is the Hornets ended up coming back in the most lopsided blown lead in San Antonio Spurs history. Jeremy Lin comes off the bench, puts up like 33 points, shoots 6 for 7 from the 3-point line. He has an insane game. Nelly rushes the court after the game's over, gives Jeremy Lin a big old hug. I am feeling great at this point. I'm mad that the Spurs lost and like this historic
cold shouldered you.
this historic blown lead that I got to witness. Nelly cold shoulders me, but my ear infection was resolved by the next morning, and then I went and saw London Is Falling at midnight. That's my ear popping story. I got to somehow meet Nelly, kind of. And I flew back and everything is fine. I literally was fine the next day.
Weird.
That's my favorite story in the whole wide world. Because
It's funny because only half of it is really about his ears
I know.
popping, but he has to talk
I
about
have to
meeting
talk
them.
about meeting Nelly. It's the most improbable
Can we
thing.
call that meeting Nelly?
I mean, in the same way that like people in an airport meet Keanu Reeves and they're like, I met
That's
Keanu
true.
Reeves.
Okay,
He acknowledged my existence.
I'll give it to you.
So that's my ear popping story. I hope that was worth it. Sorry,
It's great.
if it's long, you can cut it.
Halfway through, I thought it was one of those like weird jokes that leads up to like a very simple like punchline at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah. No,
But it was a real story.
it's a real story. It's my favorite story because so rarely does that kind of stuff happen to me.
I really wanted like Nelly to be the one who like fixed your ears, like
Oh, that
like
That's
he would
what
come
I
on,
want.
Or I thought you
like
were gonna
snap
get
a
in
couple
a
times and like
wrestling
slap
match
you in the
with
face, and
somebody.
then your ears are better.
would have been incredible. So, let's go back to group questions. Thank you, Joy, for that for having me tell the ear popping story.
I have a question that I'd like to answer. I don't remember who asked
Yeah.
it, though. If you go to my tab, it's
Yep.
in there. Someone asked, once I mentioned that Brenna might have a crush on someone, and then I didn't say who it was.
Tracy asked that question.
Tracy asked. Thanks, Tracy, for
Oh.
asking that question.
Yep.
I was hoping we could just forget about it and let it lie, but I'll talk about it. I originally thought, and I think it may have been that mailbag episode even. I originally thought that Brenna should have a crush on Tegan, but in that mailbag episode, Reed said that he based Tegan off of himself. So that felt weird. So I dropped that one
I mean,
real quick.
all right.
And then he ended
Wow.
up, and then he ended,
Feels good.
and then he ended
Feels
up
great, man.
evil. It just felt weird.
I got you.
So,
Love is love.
and then he ended up. Why are you laughing so hard?
I'm sorry. Go on. I've made fun of you so much for
You have.
like you wanted Brenna to date Tegan.
I didn't want her to date him.
Okay.
I'm very happy with her ending up single at the end.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the fact that Brenna never actually had a love interest.
Yeah.
I'm very
Yes.
pleased with that. But you know, Tegan ended up evil, and sometimes you fall for the wrong guy. It's okay.
True. We've all been there, right, ladies? So,
Right, Danny?
Always fall for the bad boys.
right, Danny?
Right, Danny?
Living on the edge.
So, a lot of people actually, Danny, were asking about the potential of Akia and Westeros' relationship.
Oh.
They
Which-
work together. Did they work together?
Wow.
They do work.
Like as
Wow.
a couple? Do they work?
So, Dan,
Dan,
what do you think?
I don't know. I always viewed Westra as much younger than Akio.
Oh, she was just like a sister to me.
Yes.
That tis.
Wait, what'd you say?
That you kiss.
I thought you
Les
said
cousins dangereux.
kissing cousin.
So, no?
Yeah,
Never?
no.
Okay.
There's no relationship that I
Who's
think
to say?
ever went through.
Yeah, we don't need to listen.
Fan fiction, you know?
Yeah, fanfic.
Fanfic.
So
Not my
Sherwood's the
fan
only
fiction.
one who found love.
Yep.
That's bizarre.
Wow, and he died.
No, I said
So
I said this to a group of friends. I said, of course, as soon as Sherwood became a dad, he died.
Oh yes.
That's just what had to happen.
This is probably gonna lead you into another question.
Okay.
But I did have two different outcomes planned for Greg. And one
no
was
one asked about that.
one was if
you are just stating.
in,
Prairie
I-
Girl definitely didn't ask.
if Silvana was around
Oh, don't.
after the war.
Don't.
My plan was for him to become a
Don't.
paladin of Silvana
Oh, yeah.
and get married. And so like
To
I had a,
Silvana?
No.
No.
Okay.
No,
Dan.
I thought that's where
Come
you were going.
on.
I
Come
thought
on,
that's where you
Dan.
were
Come
going.
on, Dan.
I may be Greek, but this ain't Greek mythology.
no.
Lots of human god
No,
love
but he
in
would
Greek
he
mythology.
would live a very like fulfilled life was my plan. If she survived He'd serve her.
Very fulfilled.
He'd find love, and probably a human, and he would end up having half dwarf, half human babies. You know, it would
How
have
does
been
that
great.
happen?
Normal stuff.
But
Just Josh stuff.
but yeah, but since she
Just
didn't show
Josh
up,
I picked
I
up
gave him a whole nother.
both Josh toys, by the way,
Yes,
so that
I
I
saw
could
that.
say I was Joshing around, but no one
They're not
asked
Josh
me about it.
toys. They're great.
They're
So,
Josh toys.
You bring up a very interesting point that I know a lot of people had questions
Yeah, I
on.
went from marriage to
Yeah.
that. I thought that was a good
It's a great segue. It's so Mr. Seth, Ryan Friedman, Ellen the Emu, Madison Linsky, Joey Epona, Nathan, and Aaron Kegel all asked, "What happened to Silvana?"
Yeah. What happened, Reed?
She
Are you gonna tell us? Or are you gonna leave it?
I think I'm gonna leave it.
Yeah.
Do you even know? Have you decided?
Yes,
For
Why-
real?
What's
Yeah.
the point of leaving it?
it's one like did the top fall at the end of Inception or not?
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
your it's your own interpretation.
I think that's great.
That's what Greg is traveling the world for, is to figure out if she's alive or not.
I
Where-
told you
where
you
she is.
never felt her again.
I
Yeah,
think you
yeah,
just
yeah.
like holding out on people.
I do well, kind of, but like
Don't kind of me. That's true.
Are you holding out on me?
no, I'm not like being withholding at this moment. Like I will say Gray's goal of searching for any presence of Silvana was not fulfilled.
Yeah. And there's something to be said for ambiguous endings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of value to that. So like,
A lot of people also asked about Silvana's dad or Ophelia's husband. I'm not talking about him.
or how gods procreate.
Yeah, like that's whatever. I think they just like blink at each other a few times. But Silvana is not on Brannis anymore. That's
Okay.
like that's as much as I'll say.
Okay.
So someone did specifically ask. This was Aaron. Was it just an avatar that Milo channeled at the end, or was it actually her? It was an avatar, but it was a perfect like representation of Silvana, meaning that the wounds that this avatar were inflicted upon Silvana. It was a
Yeah.
1-to-1. She felt everything. So, yeah.
Cool.
Another kind of like glaring, not a plot hole thing, but a long-standing question people had from a while back, was about Captain Jax
Oh my gosh,
of
I
the
love that guy.
BNS
about him.
or no,
Two things guaranteed.
of the crusty lobster.
Thanks,
Mr.
Danny.
Seth and Sly Slimy or Caleb, they both asked about Captain Jackson. Who killed him? So I thought this was made clear, but maybe not perfectly clear. So I'll reiterate. The halfling woman
She's a bad lady, folks.
who was on the boat, who was on the crusty lobster, she killed Captain Jax. It was not Milo. Some people asked, was it Milo? It was not Milo. Nor was it a hit from Arlen. Some people asked that too. Arlen or Tegan or stuff like that. The lady, the halfling lady, killed Captain Jax because she herself was the previous owner of the BNS Pomp and Circumstance, which is the ship that got destroyed by the cannon fire that ultimately cost Dragus' life.
Yeah.
So the plan was that she was working with Captain Jack's first mate, Sanchez.
Oh my god. Sanchez.
Sanchez. She was working with the first mate to kill the captain. He would assume control, like he would assume the captainship, but she would own the boat because she lost her boat in this deal with the shape changers and Tegan and Arlen and all that jazz. When all that went down, she lost her boat and was never compensated for it. So she pretended to be kind of like an older halfling woman, but she had this is like super deep cut. She had a dagger with a flower handle, like a flower, whatever thing you grip on, in her hat. Like a sheath was in her hat. Because when you talk to her, I think it was Brenna that talked to her. She had a very like flowery hat on.
Yes.
There was a dagger hidden in that hat
Sneaky,
that
sneaky.
looked like it was just part of her flower headdress. So she killed him. You guys tracked her down. You went to
She
that-
was the chief suspect.
You're right. You
Los Banditos Metallicos.
yeah. You tracked her down in that
Gated
very
community.
expensive gated community,
Yeah.
and found out that because eventually you went to investigate Sanchez because he was the prime suspect.
Oh, that's right.
But
that's
you
right.
found all of her halfling stuff like there with her or with him, like the small step stool to get into bed, all the small clothes, all that stuff was there. So you never were actually able to say definitively she was the one that did it and tied to the pomp and circumstance. But
we never tied her to the pomp and circumstance. Like we totally missed
yeah,
that.
it was the same halfling woman. And sometimes not all mysteries get solved.
But there was one of our listeners who on Twitter, like, nailed it.
It was actually a friend of ours we know in real life.
Yeah,
Maddie.
Maddie.
It was Maddie.
Yeah.
She texted me as soon as
That's right.
as soon as she appeared in that murder mystery episode and was like, "Oh my gosh, is it this person?" And I just laughed. I said, "How the heck did you identify it
Yeah.
from that vague description?" You said, and she wrote me back and said, "Because you said when she got kicked off her boat that she grabbed her big floppy hat and threw it on the ground in disgust. That was the tie.
Wow.
That was the connection she
You got a
latched onto."
strong mental image.
Well,
One line.
Well done, Maddie, for
Yeah.
figuring that out. Huge props. So that was really fun. Yeah, like I'm glad that she figured that out because that was literally never expected anyone to put that together. There's like 2 or 3 things that I'm just like no one will ever pick up on this reference. It was that and Andrea Bocelli.
That was that's been one of my favorite things with the show is you will create these little like Easter eggs, and in my head I go, no one's ever gonna figure that out.
I know.
No one's ever gonna put all that together. No one's ever gonna figure out what all the 4 letters on that metal piece of ship
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
But it's like you look at like how much everyone dives into the like speculation and how many theories come up with, and I'm not gonna say whether or not any of those theories have been correct. But whoa, man.
Speaking of those 4 letters on that piece of metal that were under the lake, we've gotten a lot of questions about that too.
Yeah.
Ali, Isaac, Craig, Mossy, Ryu Sassman thing, and Chris. They all want to know that metal with the letters. What does it mean? Is it a spaceship? Is it a tie to Volume 2? Yes and no. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's like it's more like a reference, just like oh, we're going to space now. Here's a little thing. A lot of people specifically want to know about the iguana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the stuffed iguana, because there's that has to play into it in some way. It doesn't. I promise you. It's like I'm sorry. It's just a stuffed iguana.
He just wanted Mila to have another toy.
I did. So
Cool.
that was that. Okay, non-sneak attack related question. Rapid fire, go. Who is the GOAT? Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Jordan.
James.
Ooh, am I the deciding vote?
Yes.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, obviously.
Yeah, you two are trash.
Okay.
He changed the game.
Michael Jordan never lost a finals.
Yeah.
Never.
He was sick.
Game 6 with the flu, 44 points. What is the best gift you've ever received, and what's the best gift you've ever given? Oh, Sydney specifically says birthday gift or birthday
Oh,
given or received. Sydney and Kale.
I can't say salvation.
Best birthday gift I've ever given was this awesome quest I sent Josh on
That was
when we were
really cool.
dating. I blew up balloons and I stuck little like slips of paper in the balloons and then I drew monster faces on it and then
Oh,
I
yeah.
bought him an Adventure Time sword and he had to slay the monsters to get his presents.
She came over to my house like 4 a.m.
Yeah,
Hid them all over the house.
I didn't sleep at all that night. I was so excited.
And then I got woken up with like this scroll that said I had to go on this adventure and had this sword. So I'm running around. It's my parents' house. I was living in their basement, but I'm running around my parents' house at like 5 a.m.
In his pajamas.
like knocking balloons down from like they were like stuck to stuff with tape. So I'm knocking them down. That was really fun.
That was the best gift I've ever given.
That's
And it
probably-
cost less than like $5.
Yeah.
I should do something like that again this year. Best gift I've ever gotten for my birthday? What have you gotten me for my birthday?
I have such a terrible memory.
The sneak attack video is up there.
Yeah.
That's definitely up there. Okay, anyone else?
Anything?
No.
Dan, you had a look on your face.
Best gift I've ever received was, I think it was Christmas, so not my birthday.
That
but
wasn't the question.
the year that spectacles were a big thing and you could only
Yes.
get them in a vending machine.
Yep.
My wife got me a pair.
That was a big deal.
And she didn't even like go to New York. She planned.
No,
like,
she had
she-
someone who
some
she knew was
contacts.
in New
That's
York.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait in line and get them for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the Tower of Orthanc one year for my birthday.
That was for me and my parents.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that was a big.
I couldn't afford it, so my parents helped me.
That was legit. The Lego Tower of Orthanc. That is
he
one.
he about cried. He was like hyperventilating. He
I
was so excited.
It was one of those things like I don't remember feeling that excited, except for when I was like a little kid and I got something I really liked. Like
yeah.
it was like that sense. It was a Lego thing, but it's like the biggest Lego toy I've ever gotten, and it's such this iconic, like massive piece. So like this little kid Josh came alive when I got it. It was a cool moment.
It wasn't your birthday, but you also cried when your brother got you the double-sided orange lightsaber.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Oh, that was a best man gift.
That's
Yeah,
best man gift. Yep. And Reed did do like for my bachelor party, you gave me like the most rad one-shot D&D game ever. So
It was very like stereotypical. I made a game where this like the most beautiful woman in the world had been kidnapped, like the king's daughter, and some brave knight named like Joshua or something had to like go rescue her. And
yeah, but like it was the I don't remember the plot necessarily, but I remember the dungeon because he had actually built it like
Yep.
on a big
That was
old piece of
amazing.
like wood or something
Yeah.
like that, and you tiled it.
yeah,
And you created walls, and there were little pots with
Dry ice.
that were smoking out steam in the entire like little dungeon.
And then
And there was a little red laser that we had to get to hit different doors in the dungeon to unlock them.
Yeah.
And the way we did that was by going into each room, completing a test, and getting this mirror that we could then reflect it into through other doorways. Till eventually, it like made this big arcing sweep around the whole dungeon to open a door that we had access that we could like see early on.
it was
Like,
it was the very first room you get to. You see the final door.
it
but
was awesome.
You couldn't actually get the laser beam there until the very end.
I had to share some pictures of that on Twitter. That's a
And the laser actually made contact.
Yeah,
I tested
yeah.
it to make sure with the dry ice you could see the laser actually like reflecting off the mirrors.
so
That
basically what I'm hearing is Reed's been phoning it in for the last 3 years.
true story.
that was before a lot of other life
I'm
stuff.
I'll work really
joking.
hard for one night, not 156 nights.
Volume 2 is going to be one night and one night only.
That's true. Mike, favorite chips. Mike, favorite food. This person's is chips.
Pizza.
Dan?
Sandwich of some sort.
What kind of sandwich, Dan?
Sandwich.
Sandwich
I
is
like
so
all
good.
kinds of sandwiches.
Like a Reuben, a meatball?
You love sandwiches.
Hot, cold.
Everything. Italian cheesesteak.
Where's your favorite sandwich
beef.
restaurant?
Loves bread.
Sam and Louis.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Really?
Kelsey, favorite food.
Ice cream.
Josh?
Right now, I can't get enough of the Sultan's Kite Gyro.
Oh, okay.
That's a local favorite,
Yeah.
but yes.
And I get it plain. Like, I don't
He
put
puts
any
meat
sauce
on
on it.
naan,
Wild
and
boy.
that's it.
It's just meat on naan bread, which is delicious. And
You're welcome for
the
that.
first time I ordered it, they all looked like I had 3 heads.
Yeah.
They're like, you don't want anything on it? And I said, yes.
Reed?
I don't know. I don't have one.
Pizza.
Probably that's the food I could eat the most, but it's
John's.
not my favorite. That was from Liam. Thanks, Liam. This one's from BDN. This isn't a question. Just says, my friend loves your podcast, but he's on a mission right now, and he won't be able to listen for another year. Can we wish him luck? His name's Roston. Good luck, Roston.
Good luck,
Good luck,
Austin.
man.
May you complete your mission.
This is from Dwayne Farnham. Says, what has been the most challenging thing that we've all had to overcome as a group throughout the entirety of Volume 1?
Hating Josh.
Yeah.
Just showing up every week and having to stare at him, I think, has been...
It's been real
Every
tough.
week, you guys, I had to wake up next to him for
Oh,
4
gross.
years.
I gotta look in the mirror every day.
I'm just watching
kidding.
him slide into becoming the man he is today.
Been terrifying.
Honestly, I think, like, the most challenging thing that we've had to overcome is just figuring out how to... This is for fun, but it's also a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The business.
The business side of it, exactly.
That's been awkward, uncomfortable, difficult.
Yeah.
Like,
That, and I would say battling burnout.
Exactly, yep.
Those two things.
So, good question. This one's from Audrey, a.k.a. Gene Money. Do any of you listen to Post Malone?
Yeah.
What are your favorite current favorite songs?
Josh,
I haven't listened to him in like weeks, but
he just listens to the album on
you know what?
repeat,
My
to be
favorite,
honest.
my favorite one. It's
Beer
a,
Bongs
it's a,
and Bentleys?
It's a
Yeah, it
different,
is.
it's a different pace than all the others, but it's Feeling Whitney. It's super chill.
I like Sorry.
Love that one. Sorry's really good too. Yeah.
I'm Paranoid.
Is Post Malone the guy with all the tattoos all over his face?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Milo and Sherwood.
Yeah.
And Mike.
But yeah, dude, I really enjoy the guy. I found him through H3H3 Productions.
Yeah.
Like, cause they're buds, and so I think that's why one of the reasons why I like him.
I didn't like him originally, but he's grown on me.
I introduced Kelsey to Post.
No, you did not. I knew about him. I didn't like him. You got me to like him.
Yeah.
I knew about him a year before you did.
Here's a question from Aaron Williams. This one is kind of to me. Sorry. So he says, Reed, I noticed during the final battle you had Westra finish off the 2 Demon Lords. I did. Why the decision to have a DM PC finish them off instead of letting the player characters do it? Was that always the plan, or was the battle ending up to be too tough for the PCs and I wanted a way to clear the way? That is an excellent question, and one that I wrestled with a lot during the creation of the last couple episodes is how much player agency do I allow versus just finishing the story a certain way. I want to say that I'm 90% satisfied with the result, despite the fact that the players didn't actually contribute statistically to the final fight, if that makes sense. There was no role they made that like directly influenced the outcome, which sucks. But at the way what I told myself to sleep at night was that it was all the decisions they made for the previous 153 episodes that got us here.
Yeah.
And so this is more just finishing the story in a way that is satisfying and does their story justice.
It's the outcome.
Yes. And so I went back and forth a lot trying to like
I remember that bugged you for a while.
It did. Actually, the battle with getting Sherwood back into the fray, into the material plane, and that whole wish spell thing it actually didn't play out the exact way I expected it to when I wrote it. What I originally planned was Sherwood would show up, he would have his moment with the group, give any hugs, tears, high fives, and then he would immediately start saying the wish spell. And then what I was going to have is the 3 of them have to defend him from attacks, because if he got interrupted, he would have to start over.
Gotcha.
And then so it would be up to Brenna, Milo, Greg, and Akio to ward off all these attacks, while Sherwood was, I think I said like 2 or 3 turns to really complete everything.
Yeah.
Because that's not what Sherwood did when he got back, and I didn't want to, I wasn't going to tell Sherwood how to play the character because it's been so long and it's his character. So I flexed with it and instead just allowed it to be a 1-turn thing, and then had the characters contribute along the way. So I also wanted to give the option for Westra to not die. I had it written down in my notes that either Graic or Westra was going to die, protecting Sherwood.
Yeah.
I was fully prepared for Graic to dive tackle Dathmeros, and then both of them get chopped in half by the portal. But the way that his fight with Diane played out, it kept you away from that, which was my intent, but it went on too long. So and she buried you, which was that was an on the fly thing. So it positionally, it didn't work out in a way that it actually allowed it. And so when it got to the moment where I knew someone had to intervene to stop Dathmeros, it ended up just being Wester, which is fine. I think that was also probably one of the hardest decisions too, was because I love her as a character so much. But again, but then at the same time, I was I'm still also just writing a singular narrative right now. I'm not allowing for participation. So a lot of back and forth there. That's a really good question. And unfortunately, the answer is I didn't have a better way to get the outcome I wanted, which sounds cheap and kind of railroady, but
It's my game.
I think it still
We
landed.
did 154 episodes that weren't railroady.
Yeah, so I think it still landed. So Let's do another one for the group. This is from Gurpreet Tour. Just says hashtag or parentheses junior. So, for each member of Sneak Attack, looking back at everything that happened, is there a moment where you would change your change a choice your character made and why?
No. I would have used different dice that was loaded and gave me a 20 every time.
That's smart.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. No,
I can't think of anything.
No?
I can't think of anything off. It's too meticulous.
I maybe would have respect Akio a little differently coming back from the plane. The first time I built him, I was like, how can I do the most damage? And then
Yeah.
I realized you don't do damage as a wizard.
Not early on, at least.
Not early on. And then the second time I came back, I was like, okay, I'm weaker level. We're going to be fighting harder stuff. I'm not going to do a ton of damage. What stuff that could aid Akio outside of combat? That would be really fun to use, and I just never got around to using it the way I wanted to.
What's really funny, you mentioned that, and there is a question from Bradley R. who says, after Akio came back from the Plane of the Damned, why did he only use Eldritch Blast? He was still a wizard, or did he respec as a warlock?
He was still a wizard, but something to do with my feet.
You took Arcane Initiate, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could take an ability from another.
Yeah, you take like 3 or 2 level 1 spells or cantrips or something like that. Some combination of that from any other class.
Cantrips ended up being the most damage I could potentially deal out of how I respect Akio coming back. Because all of my like level 1, 2, 3 stuff was all like flavor stuff. Like the tiny hut.
Right.
Or being able to... There's one I don't know if I ever used where I could leave something behind or put something in a place I'd been to see what was going on in that place.
That was clairvoyant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about doing that, but
Yep.
never actually came into practical.
Yeah,
application.
there's a lot of flavor stuff that I just never got around to using the way I originally intended.
I had a couple flavor things that I never used either the whole way through.
But we did get to see the result of like one actual just like character piece of flavor, which was the note you had from Natsu the whole time, which was really... I remember when you made Akio, you said you had this thing, and like we never referenced it, we never talked about it, but you had it with you the whole time. I thought that was really cool.
Playing the long con.
One last question just for you, Dan. Lawson and Scott, they asked, what was the spell used to revive Westra? And if you don't know this, I can help you out with it, because this was kind of a thing we established.
I don't think it was in the book. It was just something you and I had talked about with Akio becoming a necromancer. And basically, you said that I could bring somebody back to life, but each time I did, it would take like a fraction of my soul. Yeah. So it was like I couldn't do it an unlimited amount of times.
Right.
So every time it was going to cost me.
Well, the way I kind of like flavored it in my head was like, it almost like splits your soul in half.
Yep.
And so, realistically, you could do it an infinite number of times, but like you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And almost like your moral compass along the way.
Yep.
So like if you would have kept doing it, I would have made these like morally ambiguous decisions much more difficult for you.
Yeah.
And like you probably would have been more drawn to the darker, more evil path.
Yep.
But you never did until the very end. So now I feel like the whole path of you and Westra, you're almost like linked.
Yeah.
Like together.
I totally felt that way.
So I thought that was a really cool way to do it.
Yeah. There were moments along the path after you gave me that ability where somebody would die. I'm losing his name, but the doppelganger.
Dragus.
Yep. When he died, I was like, I could bring him back to life, but I was like, Akio would not sacrifice like a portion of himself to bring this guy back.
Yeah. Which goes back to the whole doppelganger thing of them like giving you that. That's why those wraiths came and visited you guys that one time looking for Akio, because they gave you that power and were really mad that you didn't use it to save Dragus.
Yep.
So they thought like you owed them.
Oh, but you weren't there.
Yeah.
Because you did.
They didn't know you did. Mike, this is from Zachary and Draconian Ethan. They want to know what was the actual cause of Sherwood's death.
I'm not gonna say.
I like it. Was it a coincidence that there are two halflings with the name Milo and they're both associated with the Council of Races? Because my halfling's name was Milo Lightfoot. Yours was Nightswim. And you both ended up on the council. Maybe.
Think about it.
It's in the bylaws. They gotta have a Milo.
No, the name Milo is in the player handbook as a suggested name.
It's true. I also think it's one of the best halfling names out there.
I didn't know that until I came. I was like, yeah.
Really?
And then I saw it and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm unoriginal.
Yeah.
Good job.
It's like my parents being like, we're going to name our daughter Kelsey because no one's going to name their daughter Kelsey.
Oops.
And I'm always like the second or third Kelsey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mom. It's okay. My parents don't listen to the podcast
Thanks,
like
Mom.
Josh is.
Josh,
Yo.
this is from Anthony Lawton. Was there anything more planned for Vorstead? I felt like there's more that could have been done, especially considering the amount of backstory and lore that Josh had written.
All the time he spent.
But it seems
thinking
like we
about
got off quickly. Was there anything else you wanted to do while you were there? I mean, I know that I had more that could have been done, but again, just with the pacing of the story, it didn't make sense to stay there.
There's definitely like a lot of stuff in the story of Stone that's hinted, like political upheaval and because I had like okay, come on guys, quit making faces. Like the guy who had trained Diane was, I had actually pictured him as being kind of a Prince of the Apocalypse, like that secretly had become the Minister of Vorstead and was working out some nefarious plans for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like and I'm sure you had stuff planned for the wars that were going on in Vorstead and those kind of things. The moment there's someone else in here who asked like, why didn't Greg become king of Burgess or anything like that? The moment that Greg decided to leave his hammer with Garzulio, and decided to go with them and leave Vorstead again, I think something in him kind of shifted, and he just kind of I think after all the adventure that he went through, and the fact that Silvana was still gone from the world, and he feels kind of a responsibility to her, I think he's kind of accepted more like the world of Brannis as his home, and I think he's blurred the line between races too much to like commit himself to one race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or to do that. So
I dig that.
yeah.
Speaking of the hammer you gave to Gorzulio,
Yes.
a few people had questions about what Maelstrom's specific power was and how it related to the other two.
Yeah. And this is something you and I kind of workshopped
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
Was the hammers and what they were. I wrote the initial like one to break, one to build, and one to be the balance. Like I wrote that initially, but Reed kind of helped me flesh out the magical powers of the one that builds and the magical powers of the one that breaks. How the one that breaks is super strong, but it also like drains the life of the person that's wielding it, and how the one that builds is made to craft, but it also helps give longevity to the person who wields it, so they kind of counteract each other. But even if you're wielding both of them, you're still experiencing both effects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You still are given longevity, but you're also having your life force drained more quickly. And so Maelstrom
kind of equivalated that to like Bilbo in The Hobbit.
Yes, yeah. Maelstrom was made to nullify both hammers' abilities, so that when you're wielding all three, they're just incredibly great hammers. But you're not experiencing you have a super strong melee weapon, but it's not slowly killing you, and you have a really great forge hammer, but it's not giving you magical longevity.
Yeah.
So Maelstrom always had its magical abilities unlocked.
Right. But you don't really see it without the presence of the other two,
Yeah.
which is always the point.
Yeah.
So a couple questions that came in from me then. This one's from Zane, Zach Wilson, Ari, and Amelia. They say, what happened in the Plane of the Damned now that Dathmeros is gone? Excellent question. So as you kind of heard in the epilogue, anyone who was imprisoned falsely was released. That's why the colonel came back. But anyone that was there for normal pretenses just continued serving out their sentence. Dathmeros as a demon lord is dead. Not like maybe dead. He's dead. And so it was much less politically motivated and like motivated off of like personal gain or greed or anything like that. So it just operates much more like a regular prison at that point. In terms of the relationship between like Dothranus, Dathmeros, and Malamet and everything like that, just like I just thought it'd be fun if they were like brothers or family demon lords. So someone suggested that does Dothranus now operate both Limbo and the Plane of the Damned, which I think is a totally legitimate possibility.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it was originally Dathmeros' idea to take over Limbo, but now it's the other way around. So that was kind of a fun thing.
It's like strong bad, strong mad, and strong sad.
Exactly.
Wow, that's so good.
Oh, another question that came in a ton that I didn't honestly want to explain, but I think I have to, is what is the deal with Dirk?
Oh, Dirk.
So Dirk is not a paladin, obviously. Silvana confirmed that. He is a guy who his mind was being poisoned by a sword with the soul of a demon trapped inside of it. I could actually pull up my notes here and find out because
Dark Dirk.
It's really funny. But
what was the name of his servant dude?
Lorenzo. Here's the character bio I wrote for Dirk. His name is Dirk Steelflex. His real name is Percival Hermanson. He was cursed with an intelligent sword that convinces him he is called to enact a holy justice on her enemies. Her being like the spirit that inhabits the sword. So Dirk roams the world, ridding it of evil in the name of his master, Silvana. In reality, the sword is inhabited by the soul of a chain devil that was trapped there by a true paladin in the Second Age. The chain devil overtakes the mind of the wielder and convinces them to kill for sport. So I say that he was a former smuggler turned upstanding citizen after failing to deliver the sword to his client, a collector of rare goods and antiquities. And so he took the sword for himself and had his mind consumed by the sword.
Wow.
So there was a there was a backstory there. I planned for him to show up just randomly, like different islands, different situations, out of the blue, total nonsense. Just to have him show up and like do something awesome because the sword had power, but it wasn't power that he was producing.
Yeah.
It was just power that the sword had. So all the displays of awesomeness that you think are like, oh, he's getting power from Silvana, it's actually just the sword manifesting it to like fool him.
I'm curious what would have happened if Lorenzo ever got his hands on the sword.
I don't know. That's a good question. I did. Oh, there is one reference to the fact that the sword was up to something, because in the carriage rides you guys take together, the only thing he does for like 12 hours is sharpens the blade, and he's like intent on it. He does not stop, and so like that was kind of the whole thing of like the sword consuming him, kind of like the ring of power kind of thing. So
Gotcha.
that was like the one hint I had, but I introduced him way too late. And so I would have loved to have like hit him with you like within the first 30 episodes and then have him show up like 4 or 5 times. But people also asked if he was at the final battle. Everyone was there.
Yeah.
So everyone was there. He was there. Everyone was there. I'm sure he died. I'm positive he died.
Now Lorenzo has the sword.
Someone also asked like who has the hammers and the amulet now. The amulet is inert.
Yep.
It has no power. And as for the hammers, Greg has 2 of them.
Gorzulio has the 3rd.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming is now leading Vorstead in some capacity.
Yeah. Last questions for the group. If Danny, Kelsey, or Mike, well, Kelsey already answered. So,
So these two have to answer
if Danny and Mike were ever to run their own story, what would you tell? What would your campaign be about? I think I already know the answer for Mike. It would just be Dinotopia.
I really want to do a campaign set in a defunct mining town in the Wild West.
Oh, that'd be so
Love
cool.
it. I love it.
Ooh, that would be really cool.
Volume 3, baby. Come on. You DM Volume 3?
Your kids will be so grown.
Yeah.
I don't think I could think on my feet like a DM would need to.
We can pause every time you need to think.
It's a muscle, man. You just gotta
you flex
you
it.
just gotta flex
Yep,
it.
you just
Yeah,
flex. That's really cool. Mike?
You said Downtopia. I would do Downtopia.
This is for everybody. Recently had a player. This is a DM. I'm sorry. That question was from Scotty Peters. Thank you, Scotty. This is from Code. Recently had a player leave because they felt like they had no agency in the story, which sucks.
That does suck.
How does Reed handle this? Has this ever happened to any of the players? And how can anyone DM? But I'm also including what can players do to make it feel like they have more agency in the story and are contributing rather than just being railroaded.
Cool. For the player perspective,
Sure.
write a backstory. Build your character into the world and work with your DM to create that agency. Like the half the stuff that Graic like got to do that affected the world was Reed taking things I had written in my character backstory and plugged them in and given like little moments, and even like the hammers is a great example. Like those ended up becoming these really cool big items that I just written in the, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't a big thing when it started. So
And I do want to just say, like, not every DM player match is meant to be. Like, it's... I know some people feel a lot of pressure because, like, this is the only person I know who can DM, or, like, this is my only opportunity to play D&D or whatever tabletop game is. But, like, you don't have to, like, if it doesn't work, if you don't mesh well, doesn't mean you can't be friends, but maybe for sake of the relationship, you don't play together.
Yep.
Like, I know that I have some friends who can't play together because it just ruins their friendship. So keep that in mind too. But I think Josh is giving good advice if you're dedicated to staying in game.
I'd also like text Reed during the week and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing.
Yep.
Yeah,
That helps a
too.
ton.
Gives a lot of stuff to the DM.
That helps a ton.
Yep.
Yeah, is as much as like Josh contributed to the game, and I like tried to field that. Like working with your players as a DM is that's the best thing you can do. Figure out what they want out of the game, and then work with that. Ultimately, it is a DM's job to tell the story for the players, and if you don't have any players that want to hear your story, then it's not worth telling. Which that sucks to hear, but like I think it's the truth. So the best stories in D&D are told collaboratively.
Yeah.
Figure out what it is your characters want, and then really work on that. See, I like the defining traits for like just thinking of Graic off the top of my head would be like the handshake we were able to establish between like his barbarian side, where like I just created a thing. I could tell that he was really into it, and so we worked on making that more of a thing.
Yeah.
And then with the hammers, like as Josh mentioned before, it's just none of those things were planned to be like big things that defined Graic, but they ended up being because we both had this like commitment to telling the best joint story we could.
Yeah, like I included Maelstrom as one of 3 hammers, but Reed's the one who made them something so much cooler than what I had originally written that ended up becoming way more valuable items to Graic.
Yeah.
And I will say, Reed didn't always just like give me what I wanted. Like I'm not saying I would text him and say, "Hey, I want a magical hammer." And he'd be like, "Oh, cool, next game you got it."
Oh
Like,
yeah, no, he fought for those.
But it's
pretty
good
dang
for
hard.
it's good for a DM to know that the players and the player characters' goals.
Yeah. Speaking of Kelsey, the picture you posted on Twitter of Josh
Yeah.
freaking out,
Yeah.
that was when...
Yeah.
The 3 hammers were at war.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that was so freaking rad.
Still excited.
That moment is like locked in my
He
brain.
he had a similar reaction when Sherwood arrived too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for everybody. Laurel or Yanni?
Laurel.
It was Yanni, but it turned to Laurel.
First time I heard it was Yanni. Every other time it's been Laurel.
Yeah.
I think I heard Laurel.
Laurel.
It is Laurel. Like someone like messed
Yeah.
with the audio,
Yeah.
but it's when you like tweak the pitch or
You
whatever.
can pitch shift it to get the
Yeah,
result you want.
yeah.
Yeah. Black and blue dress or white and gold?
I think it was black and blue for me.
For me too.
Yeah, I saw black
I
and
don't
white.
remember
Pretty sure
that
white
one.
and gold.
See, Tiff saw white and gold too.
Yeah.
Like I know it's not a black and blue dress, but like
No, it's like
It's a white balance thing.
yeah,
it's a mixture between it's a mixture between brown.
But what I saw
and
was
purple.
Yeah.
Pineapple on pizza or nah?
No.
No.
Why?
Put it away.
That's
Gross.
disgusting.
Thank you.
Get out, Dustin Runcie. Get out of here. You stupid Hawaiian pizza.
Those are all from JC, by the way. That's great.
Jesus Christ.
That's from Jesus Christ.
I
Jesus,
love you.
what's
I
up?
love you, Dustin. We miss
I
you.
love you, Dustin.
No. Just kidding. Love you, Dustin.
Dustin doesn't listen. To
This one's
so-
from Brian. First, I got your back read. Avatar sucked. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Second, I'm not sure if I missed it or I don't know, but I would love to hear what some of your favorite books, authors, or podcasts are. Things that we draw inspiration from just in our creative endeavors.
Any strong female lead.
Mm.
Love them.
Yep.
RBG. She's real. She's not fictional. So that's fine.
The color spectrum.
Dude, Brian Stavely, man, I freaking love the characters he built in his books. Yeah,
Patrick Rothfuss.
Patrick Roth is good. I'm currently reading a book by Terry Goodkind,
Yeah.
and good grief, that is okay. You guys think that Reed is a ruthless storyteller? Terry Goodkind is malicious. Like, you know that line that most authors like drag you to, and they take you across it,
He
and that's
puts-
like the worst part of the book, and then somehow it gets redeemed. Terry Goodkind just lives on the other
It lives
side
on
of
the
that
other
line.
edge. I love
How is
it.
he compared to
God.
George R.R. Martin?
I was gonna say that's a Game of Thrones type
it's
of thing.
psychological. Like George R. R. Martin's all like gore and guts and everyone's dying, getting murdered. This is like your characters have lost the identity of who they are and they're never coming back to it. It's like very like depressing almost. Like it is hardcore.
This explains a lot about your mood,
Yeah.
Lisa.
Someone
recently.
send me one of those books. I will have to read it in prep for volume 2.
Okay. Oh, no, Reed. No. I'm sending you Dinotopia.
Perfect. Mike, anything? Inspiration?
R.L. Stein.
Time?
Dinotopia.
Goosebumps?
Dinotopia.
Are you afraid of the dark?
Are you afraid of the dark?
Oh, are you
Ah,
afraid
real
of the
monsters.
dark?
Seriously, are you afraid of the dark? It's scary. Yeah, that's it.
Danny?
I listen to a ton of podcasts, and so I wouldn't say there's any one in particular because I work by myself a lot. So
Yeah.
pretty much all day I just burn through podcasts or books on tape.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know, I like history a lot. So finding a good history book that focuses in on one person.
I dig that.
Especially the weirder the better.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's some fun things you can do with that.
Someone asked me what I'm using as like inspiration for volume 2. Sorry, I don't have the name off the top, but it was in this mailbag. I am. This applies to any DM out there, any world builder. You can draw inspiration from anything. It doesn't have to just be within your genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while this is a sci-fi adventure for the next campaign, I'm not just relying on like Star Wars, Star Trek, Blade Runner,
One Tree Hill.
One Tree Hill.
Friday Night Lights.
Draw inspiration.
Oh, you know there's gonna be a Coach Taylor. In
No,
this
there's
one.
Tim Riggins. Put up the
Oh,
threes.
Diners,
Riggins
Drive-Ins, and
Riggs.
Dives.
There's honestly, Guy Fieri is so ridiculous. He's a perfect D&D character.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, we talked about this with Greg and Shelley.
Yeah, like find
It's the
the
miniature boss.
the story in everything.
Yeah.
If you meet someone
That's a
at
great quote.
in a line at Starbucks and that just goes, "Oh my gosh, is this person a real human being?" That's an NPC waiting to happen, friends.
Yep.
Like while I'm inspired visually and tonally from like things like Blade Runner and Mass Effect and Cyberpunk and stuff like that, like those are awesome visual inspirations, but that's not going to help me make interesting characters or interesting stories. I want any piece of content, any piece of fiction or nonfiction. If it, like Dan said, the weirder the better. If I can draw inspiration from something that has actually happened or a person I've actually met, then that's just as good as like watching a really good sci-fi film. Also, someone asked me to reconsider having Volume 2 set in space. No.
What?
LOL to that guy.
Sorry, but no, thank you.
Yeah. And
I'm
last,
so excited for space.
again, it's not about the setting. Good stories happen everywhere.
Yeah.
It's about good characters, good interaction between the DM and the players, and really just creating fun, memorable moments. Fantasy and sci-fi are inextricably linked. They're the same thing, just with one has a bow and one has a blaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're the same. I'm sorry.
And we live in Nebraska. If
Yeah.
we can make Nebraska interesting, we can make anything interesting.
And Avatar Last Bender's an anime. Fight me.
Yeah, fight me IRL. Very last thing. This isn't a question, but this comes from Ben K. V. Falsifier. Just says, love the show. Please continue to play as friends having fun, because you can only have fun when you're with the people you love.
Oh,
So
Dude.
thank you, Ben K. that's ultimately what we're here for, is to just 5 friends hanging out, having a good time. And so we think so long as we can keep that going, anything we play is going to be fun. So
Yeah.
that's it. This is the end of volume 1.
I'm not gonna talk about it ever again.
Ever. Burn all the old shirts, only the new shirts.
Burn them all.
Speaking of shirts, did you know that you can get a brand new shirt designed by Mike to culminate the end of Sneak Attack on our website right now, sneakpodcast.com?
It's for volume 1, so you have to burn it as soon as you get it.
As soon as you wear it. But
Please.
I need
People
5
buy 2
so I can
shirts,
wear
they
them
can
for
burn
work.
one, and then
there you go. No, please don't burn your shirts. They're really
Please
cool,
don't.
and we hope you enjoy them.
I'm
So
gonna burn it.
we are really excited to transition to volume 2. Over the next few weeks, you're going to see stuff like our Patreon update to reflect volume 2. Our Twitter and social stuff is going to reflect volume 2. So we're in full swing volume 2 go mode right now. I'm writing like crazy. I'm getting tons of inspiration and feedback from these guys here. I always am sending stuff over, be like, please fact check this, sanity check it, make sure I'm not just like writing up my butt and none of this makes any sense. So I think what's coming is going to be amazing. I know I shouldn't set the bar super high in fear of like letting people down, but I am so flippin' psyched for it. So
too.
thank you guys for hanging out, for asking all these questions. 453, and
Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
nope,
Nope.
not even close. Thank you all for Sneak Attack Volume 1. I'm Reed, your friend and DM of Sneak Attack Podcast. To my left, we have...
Dan.
Kels.
Mike.
And Josh.
Wow.
Oh.
And Josh, it's me, everybody. Let's go, volume 2.
All right, I'll allow you to play Bill Cosby's boy. Just the voice. Just the voice in Volume 2.
Yeah, don't get rapey.
Okay.
Yeah, no rapey vibes in